Bobby Roast Beef with another episode of Jigs and freaking Bigs. We got one hell of a show. We got a great guest host with us. The one and only Noelle Roth is in the house joining us as our guest host, and she's got a bombshell to drop. She's got news, something going on in her life that has kind of brought her into a new circle of angler, should I say? I've had one hell of a week. A little bit of the struggle bus, to be perfectly honest, for the Multi-Species Scavenger Hunt, but also a new PB. Details on that, and Joe. Poor Joe. Joe's had a week, and we're here for him as a little support group. We're going to do our best to make sure that he survives this challenge. Guys, we got information and just the tip for you. You're not going to want to miss, especially if you're broke, and if your boat, rather, is broke, and you're not broke on the boat, but you will be broke after that. You get what I'm saying? We've got information for you and gear of the week that you're not going to want to miss, and not one, but two FTGs for this week that you are not going to want to miss. Guys, go ahead, grab yourself something delicious to enjoy. Get ready for this show because we've got a good one. Jigs and Bigs, episode 214 starts right now. Roll right after this.
We're taking this show to Brown Town, baby. Brown Town.
Actually, the browns that I caught this week were not caught at the spot I affectionately call Brown Town. That's a different spot, but we'll talk. We'll get into that. Noelle, hello, welcome, and thank you for being a part of this shit show that we're putting together today.
The best.
We're glad to have you on. It's been like 2 years, really, since you've been on the show. I mean, we figure you were on at the 100th show, and then sometime shortly thereafter as well, for like a proper sit down. So we've got some stuff that we can review, and you know, you can fill us in on what's changed between back then and now. Obviously, there's something huge. Actually, a couple of things that are really big with you. Big announcements for the Jigs and Bigs audience. And then Joe, we had a little chat beforehand, and Joe needs. You know, maybe we need to set up a buy a coffee for Joe so that people can make submissions and the buy a coffee can be a boat fund. You know, Meg, I'm sure would not hesitate to accept. I'm sure. Oh, goodness. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Jigheads. We've got a bunch of folks in here. Let's go through the list. Who do we have? We've got a new Jighead with us. We've got Javi Silva with us. We've got Chrissy Fishing. We've got Jay Manning. Tim Behan. You're going to hear from Tim Behan a little bit later, actually, by the way. John Hagans is with us. We got Pat Martin. We have listeners all over the place that are Jigheads, and they're a part of the show, and you guys are going to be able to weigh in. Guys, the way this show is going to work this week, take your time now during segments 1 and segment 2, our Jigheads, and think of any questions you might have for Noelle. Because in our third segment, we're going to go over your questions for her, get good and caught up on all the details. You know, especially, at least I knew back then, Noelle was a big crankbait angler. And if that's still the case and you've got crankbait questions, she might be someone you want to talk to about that. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping first and foremost, folks. We have all kinds of good stuff. I mentioned the Jigheads. If you're listening to the show and you're like, this sounds really cool, I'd like to be actively involved with the production of it and how it all works, well, you can become a Jighead. That is the friendly little name we have for the members that are of our Patreon community. You can go to jigsandbigs.com and just go to our Patreon page. There's a button there you can click, sign up. It's a $5 a month subscription, rather. You can get all the benefits or just some additional discounts. Like from our partners that we offer up to our Jigheads. Plus, you get early access to the show, the ability to see the live stream on YouTube that is exclusively for our Jigheads. That allows you to engage with us as we're doing the recording, all kinds of fun stuff. Don't forget, we've got Jigs and Bigs merch available too at jigsandbigs.com. And you guys should also know that I'll be posting links for registration on Fishing Chaos at jigsandbigs.com for the May Multi-Species Tournament. It started on the 15th. So you'll be able to go and check all that stuff out, get yourself registered. If you're already registered in the April tournament, you can just search on the 15th. You'll find that. Go ahead and register for that because so far April's been a blast. I expect May, June, and the rest of the year to be absolutely amazing. So now that we've got that out of the way, Noelle, I'd like to offer you an opportunity to kind of like let us know like kind of what's been going on with you. How have things been?
Things have been crazy over this last year. Literally crazy. I want to say, actually, the last time I was on the podcast was right when I got Loon.
Yes,
right
that's
before
right.
Christmas. It was December, so a year and a half ago. And he was like in the background, like right behind me,
Yep.
like nibbling away or whatever. But he's like full grown now.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like 50 pounds. He's adorable. We got him a life vest, which brings me into what's the next big thing is that Tim and I got a boat. We got a 2023. We got a 2023 RT 188P Ranger, and dude, this thing's mint. It's mint. It has the pad hull and everything, and it's about 18 feet, 10 inches, I think, I believe. And we're able to like get out, and we're able to get on some like bigger water, which has been great. Like we were out on Multi-Species all day today. I just got off the boat, literally. It's now just started raining, but it's fire. It's fire.
That's freaking awesome. I'm stoked for you. That's amazing. You mentioned this earlier, and you've been posting some pics of it. It's gorgeous looking vessel. And you'd mentioned that you're doing you sort of got out of that critical like 2-hour window of break in and stuff, and you did a little fishing. What was the first species you put in the boat?
Nothing.
Oh.
We haven't caught anything yet. We did our break-in yesterday. So that was 2 hours just up and down, up and down, up and down the bay. And oh my gosh, it was long, it was cold, it was windy, but it was really fun to be out on for the first time. But today we went out, got a lot of fishing done, no fish on the boat. But we saw trout jumping. A lot of people were fishing, but thankfully, like we weren't the only ones. I only saw one other person catch anything. And they caught a trout, and that was it. I mean, there were a ton of boats out on Winnipesaukee today. Yeah. And I mean, I didn't see anything. I think the water temperature is still kind of cold. It's 45 degrees.
Yeah,
but
that is
I was
pretty
going
cold.
back and forth, targeting bass and trout, you know, just trying to see. But we just marked a lot of fish, but nothing wanted to bite today.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it is absolutely like that. Now, another thing that you mentioned that's a big thing. I can't believe I even thought to overlook this. You mentioned Tim. Last time you were on the show, there wasn't a Tim.
No, I was single as a Pringle.
And you two are engaged, right? Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
I had the luck to be able to meet Tim. He happened to be with you at the New England Fishing Expo when I bumped into you. Yeah. And a full-grown loon who I was just like gaga over. I'm like, how did this dog get so big so fast? And I'm like, I guess it has been quite a while since I've seen him. Congratulations, you two. That's awesome. And I'm stoked for you. I think the first thing I said when you mentioned the boat, I was like, so
Noelle, was this like a you decision, or was this like a Tim decision, or was this like a you worked on it together thing?
How did that work out? Was it a sell? Did you have to say like, hey, I think we should get a boat?
Okay, so we'll start with this. Tim came to the New England show a little bit drinky-ish, you know.
Yes, that's the best way to shop for gear.
All I had to do was go by the Cabela's booth and be like, I want that. And it was like a tracker, little tiny thing. And I was like, I need this. And he was like, let's buy it now. And I was like, no. Okay, hold on. Yeah. Let's take a step back. I don't think I want this small of a boat. And he was like, yeah, well, we'll talk about it. But then I was just at the Bassmaster Classic out in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
That's right.
And I was like, I'm seeing all these big, beautiful boats. And then I talked to Christine Fisher, Midwest Fisher girl. She said that she's now in a Ranger, and she's like a huge kayak tournament angler. And now she wants to go for the opens for actually on a boat. And she said she got a Ranger, and I was like, let me do some research. And next thing you know, they had him at the Cabela's by us, and we're there writing up all different things, seeing what we want, walking all over them, and but yeah, no, Tim is a fisherman getting there. I was kind of trying to draw him into it.
I think you're doing a good job. I think you're doing a good job. Yeah. I think he's got it.
But when I left the Classic though, I was like, okay, Tim, like these are my goals in life. This is my dream. And he was like, I'll make it happen any way possible. Seriously.
Absolutely.
So that's why we started looking. So it was really us, but like I cannot express the gratitude I have for him because he was like, let's talk it out. How are we going to get there? Because I couldn't do it on my own. Yeah. So he was like, nah, we got this. Let's do it. Yeah. And we did it. We did the dang thing.
That's freaking awesome.
We bought the dang boat.
I am stoked. I think our jig heads are feeling Joe's pain significantly because we have, who was it? Zach from Dark Horse Tackle chimes in and goes, "Need a hug, Joe? Want to dance?"
We've done our share of dancing, him and I.
It just brings me to back to Oldfields for the Columbus Expo. My God. Yep. And then Chrissy Fishing chimes in, and I knew about this, but she goes, "Oh no, I feel your pain, Joe. Not boat, but truck. Mine broke and had to be replaced. So sad. That's no good." And Chrissy is in the derb. And for those that don't know, Chrissy is one hell of a kayak angler. And as light as kayaks are, you're not going to be walking them around. Dropping them all over, your favorite fishing spots. You kind of need a vehicle to move it around, which that is not good. That sucks, Chrissy. She also says, "Congratulations, Noelle." Again.
Thanks, bro. Very,
very cool. Let's go ahead, Joe. Let's hear it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's find out what happened.
So I'll just get right into that. So I'll just get into my week because I pre-fished on Monday during the eclipse, where it was very uneventful. The fishing was mediocre at best. But I felt like I had a good chance for the weekend. I got onto a couple. I was like, all right. I was like, we can do this. This one's going to be better than the last tournament. And I pull off the boat, and lo and behold, there's about 200 cars in the parking lot looking at the eclipse, because I decided to pull out right peak eclipse. I was like literally couldn't, I have a pretty large truck, and with the trailer and everything, they just were and then I'm like, hey, I'm like trying to pull out, and they look at me like I'm the biggest asshole ever, trying to get my boat out of the water. And so yeah, I do that, whatever, get through the week, get through my work week, whatever. And I had my tournament yesterday. I get out there, and I was feeling good. I was feeling confident, right off the rip. I was catching fish, mostly friggin' pickerel, throughout the day. But we got a couple bass and everything. I'm like, all right, we're going to get somewhere. And I went into the shallows of this place to fish some timber. It's a real cool spot. It's kind of down south, like Lake Fork and stuff. It's got a lot of timber sticking out and whatnot. And I'm fishing that, and so obviously I put my outboard all the way up. I put the tilt all the way up just so I didn't catch anything. And so I'm like, all right, time to get out of here, go try a new spot. I go to put my tilt down, nothing.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, this is weird. So it's I hit the, and I have the blinker switches. There's 3 different places I could put my tilt up, and nothing. It was going up, it would go up more, and then I screwed myself even more by doing that, because I'm like, okay, it goes up down, but it won't go down. I hit the up again. I'm like, okay, still going up, but won't go down. But I got it to the point where now the prop's out of the friggin' water. So now I'm I can't use my big motor at all. And
dude, that sucks.
Yeah. So, and I'm on the opposite side of the lake, and immediately I'm just in rage mode. I am so angry. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me right now. And it was windy and everything. And I couldn't get to any of I can't get to any of my spots. It's gonna take with the wind and everything. So I took my ball. I went home. I went to the boat ramp to see if I could even get it onto the trailer without having the big motor. Luckily I could. It took me for absolutely forever. But I got it on, and then I get it off, and luckily I didn't have any fish that were I could really keep or anything like that. But yeah, so I got it off, I got it on, but now it's stuck in the up position. And obviously, Noelle knows you got to bring that motor down.
Yep.
Once you're trailering it, it has a specific spot. It has a stop that you use. So luckily, those boats have a manual. You're able to do it manually, with a screwdriver.
That's good.
And so I did that and took my ball, and I went home. And oh yeah. So Dan I fished the tournaments with Dan.
Dan knows.
And kind of sucks that he's a jig head now.
I know, because now he's all up in your business.
I can't lie about anything. But yeah, so that's basically where we're at. Luckily, you know, that's the kind of thing that's covered under warranty.
Yeah.
But just sucks because, you know, my sister's coming in from Michigan tomorrow, and with her husband, and like we had plans to go out on the boat because they're big fishermen too.
Yep.
And like now it's like, well, I don't have a boat right now, so.
Now, you had an issue with one of those trim switches previously.
Yeah,
right?
so that was just so I had already so that now we're opening up the big picture. So I was having issues with that just on my blinker trim.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's probably like a loose connection, whatever. I mean,
something
my boat gets banged around when you're going 70 miles an hour, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And which is fairly normal. Like losing stuff like that's fairly normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I don't know if it has anything to do with that or not. Like doing some research. I'm not a mechanic by any means. I'm not going to try to even pretend that I am. I am not. I am not a mechanical person when it comes to vehicles, boats, anything. So yeah, I'm doing some research. It looks like it doesn't have anything to do with that. But yeah, so the only thing that sucks is like where I bought the boat. It's like 2 hours from my house. So that's where the only place I can get the warranty work done. Yep. So hopefully I'll get it down there Tuesday. I'm feeling a little sick. Probably won't be able to go to work on Tuesday.
Probably.
So.
Yeah, you look a little peakish. It doesn't seem.
So I got some other stuff I got to do, but yeah. So that's where we're at now. So yeah, the Skeeter's a little bit crippled, and we'll talk about it. I'm gonna talk about it a little more in depth later on in the show.
Yeah, we have some segments for that.
Yeah, we do. I don't want to scare Noelle too much.
No.
It's kind of like ironic that she just got a boat, and and now I'm going to be talking about the woes of bass boat ownership. So yeah,
no joke. In my head right now, I'm like, okay, I have 3 different switches up, bring up or down my motor. And I'm like, what if one shits the bed? Then what?
Yeah.
Run the other one in front of the boat. Then run the other one on the motor, and then what if they never? None of them work. Oh.
Yep. So that the good thing is,
do this to me.
yeah. The good thing is there is that release. And this just and I didn't know this was there until I saw someone last year have to use it at a tournament, and like it clicked. I was like, oh, and like. Thank God it was stuck up, because if it was stuck down, like there's no way I would have been able to lift that up by myself. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like luckily I put the stop in. I did it, and it just like freaking like slammed down. I'm like, oh, like it didn't sound good. I was like, but yeah.
So all right, that might have actually answered my next question. Would you have been able to manually release this while you were in the water?
No, I would have had to be in the water doing it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then if I did that, then my motor would have been stuck down, and getting it onto it would have like scraped on the boat ramp and stuff. So it's actually better for it to get stuck up than it is for it to get stuck down. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yep.
Damn. And again, Dan Griffin, always carry a flathead screwdriver for a reason.
Yep.
Fair enough.
You on my boat at all times.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what's funny? I kind of wish he wasn't on, because he's going to make fun of me for this. So I always have a little toolkit in the boat, and for some reason I fucking took it out. And like a few weeks ago, because I probably like needed a small screwdriver for something around the house. I was like, oh, I know where there's one, and it grabbed it out of there. So then now I'm the asshole asking everyone who pulls into the boat ramp if they have a screwdriver.
Oh, I hate being that guy.
I was gonna leave that part out, but yeah, I'm like a crackhead looking for his fix. I'm like, hey man, you got a screwdriver?
Not flathead goodness again.
Yeah. So luckily someone had one, and I was able to get it done. So.
That's just brutal, man.
Yeah, dude. It's boat ownership's tough, man.
So, all right, because I sent you a text about noon with some great news from my end of things.
Literally 5 minutes after that.
Yeah, that sucks.
Literally 5 minutes after you texted me, it happened.
Holy shit! Wow, that is bananas. Noelle, did you have any other outings this week? Like, I know we mentioned the eclipse. Did you fish at all during the eclipse?
No. I actually worked. We had a training at my work that day, and then I kind of was like, yeah, Loon's been home for too long. I gotta go.
There you go.
And like ran back so that I would, one, not be in the traffic because I did not want to deal with people being on their phones trying to snag pictures while they're driving. Oh my gosh. So I was like, I'm out. Bye. And ran home. Did let Loon out because he had been home all day. But oh my gosh. No. And no fishing. So I just got to see it. It was rad.
It was crazy. Like, I don't know. I'm sure if I was into like astrology or whatever, like it'd be a cool thing. But it's like I don't see.
I was like on my porch with the glasses like pinned to my face, and I'm like, wow. And everyone in my apartment, because it's like a circle, so you actually can see everybody that lives there. Sure. If you live on the inside of the circle of this apartment, it's the weirdest setup. Yeah. But I'm like pinned, and everyone's looking up at me like, "Are you joking?" And I'm like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen."
Yeah. There were. So I went and I fished this one area. That was Monday, right? Yeah, it was Monday.
Yeah.
I had gone out and fished this one area near me, and you would have thought like there was like a parade for like a sports team or something, like the fanfare in this town for the eclipse. And I'm like, chill the hell out, people. Come on. This happens. Like, this is something you can figure out with science is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, you know when the next one's going to be. It's not a big deal. So I'm like, okay, it's all good, whatever. But you've got people just staring up at the sky. My favorite are the people that are like,
we're going to die. The eclipse going to kill us.
Shut up. Just it's astronomy, man. Calm down.
No, we had the eclipse because of climate change.
We had the eclipse. Why do you burn all the trash in the basement, Charlie?
It goes up with a nice smoky smell and it makes stars.
I guess. I don't know. I can't disprove it. So I go out and I'm like, you know what? My oldest daughter happened to be around, and she says, hey, are you going to go out and fish today? And I said, possibly. And she says, you can go fish at this spot. There's a walking trail. She's like, I think I kind of want to walk around. And I was like, no, actually, I was going to go and fish over at this place instead. And it's kind of a nice setup because there's some docks that come out to the water. So you kind of have a little bit more to play with than most bank fishing spots. So for a quick trip, I love going over here. Plus, this is a body of water with a super diverse number of species in it. Not as big as some of the lakes I like, but for what's nearby, it's probably some of the best around. And of course, like when it matters, I can't catch more than just what I've already caught. You know what I mean? So I can't diversify my catches that much. I couldn't buy a bite at the eclipse. I was really excited because we walked out of the house and I was like, oh, it's like on. Like you could tell it was a little dark. Now, my youngest daughter was up in Vermont with her school for a field trip. And I'm like,
get over yourselves.
She's up there and I guess like it got so dark up there that the streetlights went on and shit. And I'm just like, see, that's kind of amazing. Like, it was just a little like, I kind of felt like I was hungover. You know what I mean? I'm like, is it dark or is it bright? I don't know what's happening. What? I'm never drinking again. It was like one of those types of moments. I was like, this could be interesting for fishing. Let's see what happens. And I threw so much. I just cycled through a bunch of BFS baits, but a different wide variety of types of presentations. Nothing. Didn't get even a tap. And there were at least half a dozen other people who were fishing in the area around. Nobody caught anything. It was just bananas. I have to wonder if maybe the fish were on like the other side of the lake, getting a little like view of the eclipse from another spot. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know where they got their glasses. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're blind now.
Yeah.
Stared at the sun. Idiots. So that was my Monday. And, last week we had some weather stuff going on, which kind of had me a little concerned with how the week was going to go. There was Monday and then Tuesday. And then I've had a little project that's been on the back burner here. And I'm like, I've got to get moving on this and figure it out. So I had actually called in the assistance for engineering advice from my father. And I said to him, I was like, look, I've got a winch that I want to put on my kayak trailer so that ultimately what I can do is launch it like you would a boat. With my kayak, it's got a flat bottom. So a flat utility trailer is the perfect method to move this thing around. but just dipping the trailer into the water, pushing the boat off, and then having the winch to reel it back to me, or then, again, when it's reloading, just makes life a little bit easier. Especially because, like, there are ramps that I avoid simply because lugging a 250-pound kayak fully loaded up and down this ramp is just painful. Not to mention, and the primary reason that I decided to do this was because on my kayak, I've got those Boondocks landing gear that I can use to roll my boat where it needs to go. The thing is, with the Titan 13.5, it's not really a great fit. In fact, Sean the fisherman and I had to go and engineer this stuff ourselves to make it more rigid. And I just want to avoid messing up the gear track or putting too much stress on the hull with those wheels. So my mentality moving forward is I'm going to use those when I have to, versus I'm going to use the wheels every time and roll, this way they're there if I need it. But if there's a ramp that I can use, I'm just going to back right down, drop the boat. It works so easy. So my dad and I worked on that. It's awesome. It was great. The problem was when we drilled into the tongue to install this, all the wiring for the trailer is in there and we shorted everything. So, which is not really a huge deal because I was actually going to be upgrading the lighting to have LEDs and submersible LEDs specifically. And I'm like, well, now I just have to redo the wiring. It is what it is. So we'll get there. Not a huge ordeal. In fact, I only have to replace like probably about 16 inches of wire. I can probably go and repair it. We'll see what happens, though. As far as the rest of the week went, Wednesday, I went back to the spot where I essentially watched the eclipse with a rod in my hand. I went back to that spot, and it was just an absolute largemouth dink fest. They were all hitting on these little micro jigs that I've been throwing from Kitech that are really, really great. And, I mean, they were voracious. Like, I caught probably about a half dozen, which is cool, but just very, very small. And again, I've got largemouth already on the scavenger hunt. That's no fun. So didn't do anything for me there. I was able to put together a really nice reel. I've been using this bag from Reaction Tackle. They sent me this backpack, which is, I think it's probably one of the most over-engineered backpacks of its kind. It's like it's saltwater waterproof. Like it's got, it's really, really nice. And it's just very well thought out. Like there's a big storage area where you can store like random soft plastics or tools or other items. That's sort of a catch-all that you can put all kinds of stuff in there. And it is packed to the gills. And then it stores 3,600 boxes. So I've been kind of bouncing back and forth between 36 and 37. I normally use 37s in my crate for my kayak just because they fit so snugly. And I've been taking the backpack actually Saturday and Sunday, and today I had just taken the backpack along with that crate as well because it's got rod holders and stuff on it. And just put it right behind my seat and it works great. So I can actually really dial in the baits that I want. Just reach behind me, grab the bag, all that stuff. It works great. So that was Wednesday, Dinkfest, awesome. Put together some great content, felt good about it. Thursday, I had to do some prep. I have some events coming up. One of these is for, I would say, like more of an elderly community. They booked me for a game show. And, I'm not going to make all of these folks that are in their 70s or 80s download an app in order to play, this game. So I did some thinking in advance years ago, and I haven't touched these things in forever. I bought a bunch of these Kindle Fires, little 7-inch tablets. Yeah. They're great. And I had to test a bunch of them to make sure that they still would hold a charge and worked. I used them on Thursday night. I took a sample of 2 of them after they're fully charged. They worked for the players at my game Thursday night, so that was a good thing. Felt good about that. And then Friday, I had a big event. I actually hosted a game show for the Boxborough Rotary Club at the Boxborough Regency. And the only other time I've ever been there has been for a New England Fishing Expo. That's it. So it was actually kind of cool to see how they operate, for like typical day-to-day events. Pretty cool. We had a good time. It was a really, really good group over there. They were raising funds for some really, really good, charities in the area, which is awesome. And we just had a blast. It was a really, really good group overall. We did Name That Tune, a bunch of general knowledge trivia. It was fun. We had a good time. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right, Bobby, check the weather. What's tomorrow look like? And this weekend, I was like, I had plans to go into the Berkshires and fish these two spots, and I will be fishing them this week, probably with Chrissy Fishing. My plan was to go up there, and it seemed as if they were going to get more rain. And on Saturday, we were looking to get winds in like 14 to 17 miles an hour or something like that. And if anybody who is listening to this show had heard the episodes in when I was in North Carolina, there was similar conditions down there. We had constant rain and just winds blowing. Actually, there in some instances infinitely worse, and that's a bad recipe for me. I get miserable when I get cold, so I'm like, I know it's going to be a short send. I don't want to drive an hour out here, drop the kayak, give it a go, and it be the virgin send with this winch to know like how is this process going to work, So I'm looking at the weather, even as early as that next morning. I'm looking at the weather. I'm like, you know what? There's a spot, because I had been doing a little bit of research on what they call the interwebs, looking at different lakes that I fish and getting the species breakdown of each individual spot. And then going back to my database and saying, okay, I haven't caught these here. But they're reported to be in here. Let's kind of pay attention a little bit more and just put a little consideration into when I'm targeting these oddball species. Like there's a spot where I never ever knew that there was a bowfin population in. But again, I could 100% use a bowfin any month from now until October. Any month at all. But this is good. It puts me, at least it makes me more aware of what's going on in that body of water at some time. So that's a good thing. I had called an audible, and I decided to go to a small pond. I had fished numerous times for the multi-species tournament, and my goal was to get into a rainbow trout, chain pickerel, yellow perch. That's really the trifecta that I was looking for. I go and I launch the boat. Now, this is where it gets good.
Ladies and gentlemen, I arrive to that sad excuse of a boat ramp, and there's a fucking trout guy there.
A truck chaser. He has his seat smack dab in the middle of the ramp. And I go over and I'm like, I'm not today. This ain't the day. I go over and I say to this guy, I was like, hey man, they biting at all? He's like, they're not biting shit. And I'm like, oh, all right, sounds good. I said, well, hey, would you mind moving your seat out of the middle of the ramp so I can back my trailer down here to launch my boat? And he's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. No issues. Just had to, be stern with him. So I go and I launch the boat. And of course I'm getting a million comments about like, oh, that's a whole lot of kayak for such and such. Is that, you don't have a motor on that thing? All the regular cast of questions you would normally get. So I take off. I shit you guys not. It is 4.5 minutes after I leave, and I'm just drifting down the bank, and I'm ripping around a mule fishing Bronco blade, and I pull the first dink largemouth out, and I look back at him, I was like, look at this, and I hear,
hey, fuck you.
Made my day. I wish you could have seen what else I pulled out of there. That was unbelievable. So I'm making my way around this area, and the wind is blowing, and my thought was I was going to take a trout magnet and just float it off the back of the kayak, let it go, and hey, maybe something would hit. That was a terrible idea. It was a terrible idea. I kept pulling the weight because it was so light right up to the surface where the bobber was, where the float was. I'm like, all right, so this is not going to work. I reeled that sucker in and I left it there. But I'm throwing around this Bronco blade, and I'm getting dink after dink, and I'm probably about 4 or 5 in at this point. I get down to this one other bank where it's a little bit more sheltered from the wind, and I saw something, and I don't know what this was. If it was a big carp or what it was, but there was a follow on my spinnerbait that was coming toward me, and it just kind of came up and then sunk right back down. And it was a head about this big.
Wow.
I don't know what it was. I didn't get, visibility wasn't fantastic there, and it's really tannic. So it just kind of like came into visibility and then dipped back down, like and it was following my bait, and then it just kind of sunk further down. I was like, no shit. I was like, interesting. So in this corner, there's a house, and this house has a floating dock. It has a floating dock with a trolling motor on her. You know, one of those classy establishments. You know what I'm saying? And I
better than the floating picnic table.
Dude, that's epic. There's a guy on Oxbow that has one of those.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah, I would be all about
I wouldn't
that.
let my feet dangle in the Oxbow, though.
No, definitely not. I'd probably build that in a little bit, at least with like some screen material.
Yeah.
So I go over there, and the floating dock is like right up against the bank. Like, it's not really going anywhere. The wind must have like pushed it in this way. And I'm fishing all around meticulously, every single float. And that's the thing I like about this BFS setup that I'm using. It's almost like just point and shoot, like just boom, boom. The accuracy is stupid. It is insane. And again, like, I'm not catching anything. On the backside of this dock, I cast my spinnerbait up there, and I start, bringing it back in, and it just gets absolutely hammered. So I pick up tension, because it came like toward me and knocked slack in the line. And this is why, again, BFS, this is a 7-speed reel. So I'm like, I catch up and I set the hook and I'm on him. This fish is pulling drag like a motherfucker. Like, it is just down and then all over. I'm like, holy shit, it jumps. This is a largemouth that was 21 inches, just huge. Wow. Absolutely freaking huge. I played this fish out like an absolute asshat. Like, I tried to horse him. He was right at the boat and made one last. I had my net in my hands, and I had him like just up against the boat, and he made one last run. And instead of putting the net down and letting that drag go and then working him back to kind of play him out, I tried to horse him, and I snapped my 4-pound leader. That's what happened. Fuck you, Bobby Roast Beef.
The worst.
It was terrible. I was like, I sat there and I had a little pep talk with myself. I'm like, what are you doing with your life?
What direction do you want to actually go in? Do you know how to fish?
And I'm questioning all of this, and I'm just like, nope, just let's retie. Let's put another one on, because I had a pattern, and I'm like, we'll keep going. Okay. About 2 casts later, the biggest dink I caught that day comes right after that. The biggest dink, Like, okay, fine. All right, we release this fish. We take off. We make our way around. Now, the south end of this pond, I'm just getting beaten up by the wind. It's bad. It's really bad. I'm getting, like, it's rough. Real hard to stay on a spot, or if I'm working anything, it's blowing me in, and I'm just like, I got to stay away from these trees and stuff. The best thing for me was really to kind of utilize the docks that were around me as a way to just kind of like box myself in a little bit. Like, I'd have to go right up against the dock, but it was something to work out. Didn't get a bite at all. And I decided, I was like, so I can either scrap this and go to another body of water. The body of water I plan to go to actually this morning, that didn't work out, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I go and I decide, nope, you know what? I'm going to go back what was working before, and I'm going to see what I can pick off. So I go back and I'm reworking a bunch of spots from a different angle now, coming back the opposite way. And I get over to this one little secondary point, and I cast up. There's a laydown coming out, and then a bunch of brush. And I cast up right into that brush, and I start bringing this out. And I've gotten real ballsy about throwing like BFS finesse gear into like any kind of cover at all. And I'm like, if I lose it, I lose it. Like, and I'd rather lose it doing that than lose it going like, hey, I'm making a stupid cast and losing it in a tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would rather lose it actually going for it. And then I get hammered again, almost as hard as that big fish from before. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to lose this. This is a big fish. And in my mind, I'm like, this is a big fish. Holy shit, holy shit. This fish, same kind of thing, pulling drag, not as bad as before, but I see this fish and it's enormous. And initially I was like, is this a rainbow? Because right by the belly was a little bit of like a purpley kind of pink sort of bit of color, and I'm like, is this a rainbow or what? When it was in the net, I got it up on, it was a brown. It measured 23 3/4 inches. Didn't weigh it. It was so big, Noelle and Joe and all of our jig heads. It was so big. Now, I don't have large hands, right? I don't. So I go to grab this fish and I put him into the boat, right? And I'm trying to hold the fish in place and get this picture. And there was just no other way to control. I had to use a lip grip. I had to in order to be able to keep him on.
Boo!
Dude, I almost lost him.
Oh,
I almost
you really
him
caught me there. Like I was really hooked, no pun intended, until you said that. Like you might as well throw this whole segment away.
Had to watch out for all them brown trout.
You should go back to the ramp and tell that guy what you did. Well, he'd be really proud of you.
He'd be like, yeah, he would. He'd also be, you catch him on power bait? That's what he would say.
He'd be like,
and then you say yes. Like, yeah,
of course I did.
Yellow power bait. With the glitter, though. The glitter is key.
The glitter is key. It really is. I feel like in those low light situations, it's important. So, yeah, I get this fish, and I am stoked. Like, I am just like, this is freaking great. Release the fish swims off, awesome. I'm like, this is awesome. I'd known that they had stocked some large browns, breeders, in a handful of lakes and ponds in the area. I did not know that this was one of them. I talked to a guy for a brief period of time, and then he continued to keep talking while I was trying to load the boat, and he told me, he's like probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. And once he said that, I was like, I know exactly what he's going to say. Because there's a buddy of mine that was like, oh, such and such lake, they just released like, I don't even know how many big breeder browns. And I'm like, that's what they're for. They're big. My dad goes, hey, did you bring your cooler? Because I called him right away. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I think this is a state pinfish. And it is. I sent that affidavit out on the water. I'm like,
good for you.
Yep. Good. Yeah, we're doing
this. Good for you. That's sick.
And my dad says to me, he's like, you brought your cooler, right? And I'm like, oh no, I'm releasing that fish. And he's like, why? I go, that fish is going to taste like the bumper of a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
It's so big and there's so much for heavy metals that are in that fish. Probably not a good idea. And I know, I was even coming from the registry or from the coming from the hatchery. I'm sure that its entire diet has primarily been pellets and shit. But like, I don't know if it was exactly from there. I'm like, I just don't eat fish that big. It's just not a good idea. Yeah.
Sorry.
he gets to swim for another day. And then you never know. I might need another brown and I'd love to be able to enter them. So I had already entered a brown into the multi-species tournament. I think it was a 14-inch or a 13 or 14-inch. I beat that thing significantly. And I'm in the lunker spot right there. It's an absolute tank. So it was nice because it does, and this is if there is a tip here for the contestants in the multi-species scavenger hunt, is that if you can upgrade a species, upgrade that species. Like that will help your overall points, not your overall points, scratch that, your overall inches. So go ahead and, while you're not earning extra points, if it comes down to like breaking a tie, like we've got a bunch of ties on the board right now, and you need to outdo somebody, if you have more inches overall, if you can upgrade, definitely upgrade. So anyway, that brings us, so after that, I decided I was going to just call it. I'm like, I'm going to just fish my way back to the ramp, try out loading the boat and see how this works. Worked great. Unbelievable. It was so smooth. Even though like this ramp is hot garbage. So I put the yak up on the trailer. I'm heading home. I'm celebrating a little bit. I'm making a nice dinner for my youngest and I. And we just had a nice night chilling at home. It was fun. And then today I intended to go out to a spot where I knew that I could pick up rainbows with no problem. I need a rainbow trout or a brook trout. That could have happened over here. And this river that I went to, I've never seen it this high. Like stupid high. And just current ripping. It was like a river of literally vodka. It was crystal clear and just ripping. You could see all the like churning on the water. So I took a pine cone and I just launched it out there. And this pine cone was like, bye, just gone. I'm like, I am not launching my boat in here because that's going to be hot garbage to fish from this kayak, especially knowing where all the sides are all flooded and there's all this timber that's over there. I don't want to get my skeg caught on anything and get stuck and just be like, how the fuck am I going to maneuver this? So I made an executive decision. I went to another body of water today and got out there. Again, trout guys like by the dozens, hanging out right by the ramp. One guy pulls up right next to me in a spot designated for a trailer. He has no trailer. Again, this is just a battle that I'm constantly taking upon myself. I get out of my truck, and he's going over with a chair and sets himself up just to the right of, but still on the pavement, just on the right of the boat ramp. And I'm like, I just want to let you know, I go down and I bring my net and my paddle down there, and I was like, just heads up, I'm going to be back in my trailer down here. He's like, oh, if I'm in your way, just let me know. And I almost just freaking gunned him to see if he jumped.
Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm letting you know.
Exactly. That's it. So I
you wait, Noelle. You're going to meet them. You're going to meet those guys.
They're all over the place, Noelle.
I do have an FTG from my very first time launching my boat already into Winnipesaukee. Yeah, so maybe we'll have 3 today.
Winnipesaukee. That's all you need to say. It's it's just.
There was a guy in the water too. It wasn't. It was. Oh, it's a whole. I was like, are you kidding? Can't wait to get into that.
So I go and I launch my boat, and one of the dudes that's always there, he's the loudest human being on earth, and he's like, they ain't biting shit today. And I'm like, oh no. I go and I fish right around this corner, and I lay into another brown, which is interesting because this body of water does not have many of them. Doesn't have many browns. And look at this one. This wasn't a great fish.
Nice.
Beautiful. Probably the best pattern ever. But like the look on my face, I'm just like, what the fuck? Come on. Because until I got it out of the water, I was like, here's that rainbow I need. Yeah, here's that point. And fail.
The brown fish in Massachusetts has like gotten significantly better. That's like one of the good things we got out of COVID, because I don't know if you remember, and I don't know if it was like this up in New Hampshire, Noelle, but during COVID, they dumped every single fish that was in the hatcheries because people weren't going to work the hatcheries. Yeah. So they dumped everything into the lakes, all the breeders, everything.
So like, I fished a place in Mass, and it was like every cast, like they had just dumped it, and every single cast, it was just one after another, after all browns.
Yep. So there is crazy. The brown fishing is going to get significantly better in our state.
Yeah, I think you're right. I really, really do. And I was amazed I caught this fish. I was just like, there's only one other time I've caught a brown out of this body of water, and it happened to be a day where they are just stalking a bunch of them, but they don't stalk a whole lot. They stock infinitely more rainbows than they do browns at least in this spot. And I'm like, all right, okay, this is interesting. So, I mean, I caught one there, and I looked at it as a fluke. I'm like, these fish, they get picked through so fast. This is so heavily pressured because there's so many different bank spots on this one bank where it'll just get destroyed. Plus they rent kayaks and canoes. So like anybody who's just like, I want to spend my day fishing can just rent a boat and go and hammer them. The bass population's great. I've caught multiple 19s and 20s out of there last year. Just hammer. It is great. It's a pretty decent body of water to fish. It really is. And like there's species I've discovered that I've never caught there before, like a rock bass. So I ended up catching one other largemouth. This was way, way, way down at the north end of the spot there, actually, where I would bank fish this time of year. Way, way down the north end, super, super shallow up against some rocks. Caught this little nibbler and brought him in, released him, and then couldn't get a bite otherwise. And I was on my way back, and I heard the craziest shit. So when I caught that brown, there's this point that gets tons of pressure. People always fish off of this. In fact, I think there's like stairs that somebody built to go down right to the water's edge. So like they put work in at this spot. There's a couple there, and they've got a young kid with them, probably like 3-4 years old. And this couple is like, so I get over there just like fishing, and they're quiet. I said hello. They said hello. It was all good. I come back over, and they have like club music, like rave music playing. like at like a decent enough volume where I was kind of bopping around in my seat too. You know what I mean? The DJ in Bobby Roast Beef was like, all right, this is all right. This is cool. Right. And they're going about their thing. I go and I just fish. I'm on my merry way and I'm gone for about 2 hours. And as I'm coming back into the ramp, and I was like, I'm going to call it and I'm going to go to a new body of water. This is my plan. And as I get there, I couldn't leave because number one, the entertainment was so good, but somebody was actually parked in front of the ramp, like right in front of it. And I'm like, okay. So I go over and I'm like, I'm just going to ride this out and listen. So he is trying to teach, keep in mind, this is like they've been there for 4 hours. Now he's trying to teach her how to cast her own rod. How to actually cast. And they're throwing like night crawlers with bobbers, stuff like that. And the things I heard were like, haven't you ever played softball in your life? What do you do when you're bowling? And I don't know that those are the examples I would lead with to teach somebody how to cast. I would just show them, like you're not catching anything anyway. Just go ahead and show her, like allow her to do it and whatever. She'll figure it out, then look at the mechanics. And it was hilarious because it was she was pissed at him because, and he was getting frustrated because anything he said was just immediately going in one ear and right out the other because she was fuming. Kid's losing his mind. It was just out of this world. There's these two young guys with this small boat, and I guess they had launched the boat and they had their trolling motor, like their battery died, and one of them had their dad come and bring them a new battery or something. And they're up on this one spot, and there's this car parked at the launch right at the ramp. And then there's another truck up on the upper level. This is like a split parking situation where there's a hill that connects the two. And this truck up at the top, I'm like, all right, I don't know whose car that is that's in front of the ramp, but I got to figure something out and get them to, move it, figure it out, whatever. So I'm still fishing this one area. I see this swell up in this shallow water, and I'm like, okay. So I upsize some of my stuff, and I start throwing some, because this is a spot where I've caught bowfin before. And I'm like, all right, so let's go ahead and get on something where I'm not going to lose this immediately, So I was throwing actually from Battle Baits, a really like a compact 1/2 ounce single blade spinnerbait. God, I wish I had one down here. And
those are awesome. Was that the one you got from Dave?
Dave gave it to me. Yeah.
Those are dope.
Yeah. Dude, they are so dope. So I'm flipping this up here, just trying to get bit. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. I'm like, all right, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. This truck pulls off, I notice. And I'm like, oh, all right. I'm like, so this red car must be these kids in this boat. Like it must be theirs. So as they're coming by and I'm like, hey, do you guys happen to know who has that red car? And they're like, no. And I'm like, you fucking liars. I grab my phone. I call the non-emergency line at the police department, and I'm on the phone with a cop. And I'm like, and as I'm on the phone telling him the situation, I noticed somebody's in that car. Like they got up, they walked around, like switched spots, and then drove off.
I don't know what kind of bullshittery was going on in that vehicle, and I don't want to fucking know.
The little sus. I don't know what's going on now. So I go and I load up. I get everything all handled. I head my way, and here we are. Here we are. Now, I had an amazing week fishing. I couldn't add a single new species, and that's the thing about the scavenger hunt, guys, that makes it so unique is that you just got to go out and fish, and do the best you can to get on whatever species you get on. But you can have an amazing day, amazing week, or amazing day, or an amazing month, and maybe you only got X amount of species in there. It's just it's the ebbs and flows of this multi-species scavenger hunt. That's why I love this monthly tournament series. It's out of this world. So yeah, PB's broken. Still at 3 points. Fuck my life. Oh, and that is that for all that stuff. I do want to give a little bit of a rundown of what the points look like in the scavenger hunt right now. And we'll start at the top down. We'll do the top 10. Yeah, we'll do the top 10 because we have a bunch of folks that are at like 1 and 2 points tied up everywhere. So starting out in 10th place, we've got Daniel Sudo Jr. He's got 3 points. He is tied with me in 9th place, Bobby Roast Beef. Benny Outdoors outdid me this week. He's up at 4 points in 8th place. Brody Davis. Joe, you know Brody. Yeah, Brody Davis. 5 points, Brody. Awesome job.
That kid's a hammer.
And you know what? Every single one of his fish were absolute perfect specimens of being submitted. Like, he's doing a great job. Congratulations, Brody.
It's funny because, so Noelle, Brody is, I want to say he is 11 or 11.
Yeah.
I want to say he is. Yeah.
Cool.
And I went to high school with his mom. So she hit me up on Facebook and she's like, all right. She went and bought him the catch board, all that stuff. And she's like, that. And he did a submission that was incorrect. He did do his original, and she reached out to me. She's like, "All right, how does he do this correctly? Because like he really wants to do this." So I told her exactly like step by step how it has to be done, and I'm glad to hear he got back into it. So dude, that's awesome,
and he's killing it. I mean, let's actually what's he have for species? I'm just curious what he's got. So he's got a pickerel. I need one of those. He's got a sunfish. I need one of those. A rainbow trout. I need one of those. He's got a yellow perch. I need one of those, and he has a largemouth. Nice job, dude. He's killing it.
Red, good for him.
I love that.
He's a little hammer. That kid, he already just lives and breathes fishing. It's awesome.
I love that. I love that you're seeing more kids that age in this generation that are just stoked on fishing. You know, I think it's such a good thing.
Yep.
Also at 5 points, we've got Todd Sefton. We've got Gravy. Gravy's got 5 points as well. Norm Wilmot's put in some really, really good fish, too. Now, Norm's got 5 points. He doesn't have a bass anywhere on there. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Then we get into our 7 point range. We have 2 teams here. Stephen Galloway has been killing it. He has a bowfin in here. How large is this bowfin? He entered a bowfin this week that is 24 and a half inches long. almost longer than the board. Just absolutely huge. He's put in a carp. He's put in a walleye. He is out, I believe, in the Midwest, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he's in the Midwest somewhere. I want to say maybe Michigan or Ohio. Tim Behan, 7 points. Brown trout, tiger trout, rainbow trout, carp, bullhead, yellow perch, and a smallie. Nice job, Tim. And then in first place, and I mentioned this before we started recording, John Hagens. And John said he feels like he's been on the struggle bus lately, but I mean, you wouldn't know it looking at this. He's got 8 points. He's got a crappie, rock bass, sunfish, walleye, bullhead, a smallmouth, a channel cat, and a largemouth. Dude.
Wow.
35 anglers. As of right now, there's 125 fish submitted. You guys are amazing. Absolutely killing it. I'm stoked. I've been doing really, really good keeping tabs on making sure all of this stuff is all said or is all confirmed. Usually by the time we record, there's a handful of fish in here. I still like 4 or 5 that I need to go ahead and confirm, but you guys have been absolutely killing it. I'm psyched to see what the next couple of weeks look like because this could be amazing. Let's go catch up real quick on some of these comments that are in here. Let's see. Wow, you guys have been chatting in here. So John Hagen says conspiracy theorists were out in full force talking about the eclipse. Yes, they were. And then Zach says he was out in 25 mile per hour winds today. That hurts me, man. There's a certain point. And you're a small vessel guy. Were you on your boat, Zach? That's rough. Took him like 10 minutes and intense strategy to turn the canoe around. Yeah, he was on his. God, dude. That's brutal. Wind ran off. John Hagen's on the water today as well. Todd Sefton goes, just got home, sunburned today. Well, that's not too bad. And wind burnt. Yeah, so it was blowing out there. Zach did say he did catch one. That's good. Hey, man, it is better than not catching none. 2 days of wind for Dan Griffin. He says, I'm over that and rain. Me too. Monday and Tuesday are supposed to be really, really beautiful. We're supposed to get, again, hey, guess what?
More rain in the forecast.
For like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But again, like it's like where it's just like misting on you. And it's like, a 100th of an inch in an hour. And it's ridiculous. It's just enough to be a pain in the ass. And you add the wind and it's no good.
Yesterday, I was literally for the few hours I did get of fishing in. It wasn't even cold out, but the wind was blowing. It started pouring, and I was literally just shivering.
Yeah.
I just couldn't even control it.
I had to retie a leader, and it was like I had a hard time getting my hands to do what I needed to do, and it's like
worse.
It's just, and it could be worse. I mean, I've gone out in like really cold weather, but man, it's just brutal. It is just brutal. Cheryl Bentley says hello, Noelle.
Hello.
Todd jumps in and goes, he says that was a monster, Bobby. Congrats, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Might as well netted him off the truck. Yeah, I think he's talking about. It wasn't that close. State pin brown, absolutely. I love a state pin brown. In fact, my daughter was like, "Dad, you should get a pin board and start putting these together." And I was like, "You know what? I think I'm going to do that, but I'm going to wait until I get more than 2." And because I've got a largemouth and a brown, that's cool. But I'm like, I'm going to wait till I get more than 2 before I start putting together a pin board or anything like that. I'm like, I feel like that might be a sign of bad luck. Who knows? But let's go ahead and talk headlines. Joe's got some headlines for us. You got what do you have? How many do you have for us today, Joe?
Ooh, I have one big one and then just kind of some tidbits information, 3 of them. So I love 4 altogether.
Nice. All right, here we go. We've got fishing headlines.
All right. So this story right here is actually kind of perfect that Noelle's on the show because she's going to love this. And we're kind of going to broaden our Jigs and Bigs horizons because we talk 99.99% freshwater, but we're going to talk a little saltwater right now. So this comes straight from Fox News. Florida girl, 12, hooks multiple fishing records in a few months. This young angler is receiving the Fleming Species Award after reeling in catches that set multiple state and world records. So so it's pretty awesome. So I'm going to, just so everyone knows, I promise I don't read at a 3rd grade reading level. Yeah. I don't have my contacts in, and my dog ate my glasses. So I got to get kind of close here. All right. So an adventure-loving tween from Miami landed 2 state records and 3 world records, with 1 pending, while fishing off the Florida Keys earlier this year, reeling in sizable cobia, snapper, and a grouper that any fisherman would be proud to catch. Julia Bernstein, age 12, will accept the Fleming Species Award, the highest junior honor from the International Women's Fishing Association, for catching and releasing 37 different species of fish in 2023.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so she told Fox. She told. I'm sorry. This is her fishing guide said once she is hooked up to a fish, she is very determined, has incredible willpower. And then that's just how the tweens, she snagged the Florida, not snagged, but she hooked the Florida fish, the cobia, and which was a Florida state record, and a mangrove snapper that was also, and apparently the red grouper is being looked at as a world record.
Oh my God.
So, yeah. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, the story kind of goes on and on. But they have some cool pictures of her here. And literally she goes, I mean, they're outside the Florida Keys, places I'd probably be puking because I get motion sick. But yeah, I mean, they have her catching sharks and, fish that I have no idea what the hell that is because I don't fish saltwater, but it's pretty awesome looking. It's huge. But yeah, for a 12-year-old to hold 3 records to include world record pending is absolutely insane.
I love that it's a girl.
Yes.
A 12-year-old girl.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
That is so inspirational.
Yeah. I mean, and she just did it in a couple months. Just in a couple months. Yeah. It's absolutely mind-boggling. It's awesome. And yeah, so all the girls out there listening, anyone can do it.
Wow.
It's freaking
so
dynamite.
That's that. Yeah, that's that one. Next one, some short tidbits information here. Let me just click in and I got some photos to show the jig heads. So it looks like here on the same day, a 9-pound and 13-pound bass were caught in Tennessee in the Pickwick waters, 9-pounder being a smallie and a 13-pounder being a largemouth. So right outside of Pickwick, not by the same person, but within the same day for these fish to be caught is absolutely insane. Makes me want to move to Tennessee immediately. But I took the pictures here, and it's just so you guys can see, but check out these things. I don't know if you can see them here.
Oh my God.
Oh,
but yeah, the smallie's kind of tough to see because
the largemouth is just obese.
Yeah, it's the smallie looks like, it doesn't even look like a fish. It's absolutely.
Oh my God. That's it does. It looks like an inflatable. It's crazy.
Like my biggest is like 4.5 pounds. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. That's
bananas.
Cool.
So I thought that was a cool tidbit of information. But now that we're talking the whole record thing, we kind of been on that for the last few weeks. So in Pennsylvania, a new yellow perch record has been broken, state record.
Really?
Yeah. Well, while thousands of people were focused on the sky above Erie on Monday, a local guy was focused on the lake where he was reeling in a record. The prize catch was a yellow perch weighing 3.0 pounds. For some perspective, yellow perch usually weigh around 5 ounces on an average.
Yeah.
The man from Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission called to certify the size and weight of the fish and said it was reeled in Monday morning. The man behind the line was Chuck Main from Elwood City. Then it goes do a few quotes here, but I also have a picture of this one for you guys to see on my phone because I'm stupid and don't know how to screen share. But
yeah, that's what I thought.
Wow.
Look at that distended belly. That fish has
Bobby roast beef belly.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Good for him. I mean, I struggle to catch a 3-pound bass these days. Never mind a perch.
Shit.
Yeah.
That would be so rad to reel in. Thinking it was a bass too, and then all of a sudden it's yellow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. So last one here is going to tie into my gear of the week in a way.
Okay.
So let me see how I wanted to talk. So Alabama man was caught cheating in a tournament after winning. Okay. But here's the thing. So in a recent fishing tournament, some competitors resorted. I'm sorry, that's that other one. So this man, I'm not going to name his name, but essentially what happened is he won the tournament. Okay. This has happened to him twice to where he has been disqualified. And do you guys know why he was disqualified?
No.
Because he was chosen to take a polygraph test and he failed the polygraph test.
Oh, okay. They choose him at random, or was there a reason?
So typically, I've been in a few big tournaments where they do this. Typically, the top 3 have to take them, and then they'll pick like 2 to 3 randoms throughout.
Oh, okay.
I never knew that was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
It's I have to, when I do like the big ones for ABA, especially when I did the championship and stuff, you have to sign a waiver before the tournament and everything.
Yep.
Like saying like, hey, I will take this if need be.
All you got to do is clench your butthole. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Right.
It's true.
So, he had won the tournament, but apparently a tip was given to the tournament director, and along with his partner, they were required to take the test and both failed. In many bigger tournaments, it is common practice for directors to require a polygraph if cheating is suspected. It doesn't get into what the tip was or anything like that. The problem is, and we're going to talk about this gear of the week. So so that's for no other reason, but he failed the polygraph. He was disqualified from this tournament. And again, I'm not going to name names because we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
It's a very small tidbit of information that comes from a local sports radio station.
Oh, really?
But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the polygraph and stuff later.
Yeah.
But that is the news headlines for the week. It was a pretty quiet week, but that's what we pulled out.
That's freaking bananas. Yeah, I'm excited to find out, especially about the polygraph stuff. I've always been very interested in how that plays a role in tournament fishing. I mean, it's it's kind of interesting. It's kind of like a doping committee for like the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's sort of.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm interested to hear more about that. But there is one final thing we're going to go over before we take a quick break and we come back with segment 2 with all that good stuff you guys know and love. There was a story that broke this week regionally in New England, right up here in Rhode Island. And we actually had 2 regular listeners and jig heads that reached out to us. Matt Thayer from Klondike Custom Creations and Patrick Martin. You guys have heard us talk about both Pat and Matt multiple times on the show. They're great dudes. They're in the comments often. They actually are connected to the guy Bob, who they're friendly with Bob, who rescued the pilot and passenger of the chopper that had crashed in Rhode Island in a local pond. Let's go through the story, and I'll give you the breakdown here. It'll make a little bit more sense in a bit. So this spot is in South Kingstown, Rhode Island. A helicopter crashed into a pond in South Kingstown on Tuesday morning. South Kingstown police chief said that the police received a report of a helicopter down in Warden Pond at approximately 8:24 a.m. 2 people on the helicopter were rescued by fisherman Robert Busher, 62, of South Kingstown, who was out on the water. The pilot and passenger climbed out of the chopper after it hit the water and treaded water until the boat arrived as they were far from shore. I heard a helicopter buzzing around, and then I heard a loud noise, Busher said, about the incident Tuesday morning. It was completely upside down, so they were sitting on the rail, and it was only like 3 or 4 feet of water. I knew that that my boat would get there before the rescue boat would get there, and if they were in bad shape, they might need help quicker. Pilot Jeff Codman, 54, of Rhode Island, was treated at the scene and released, according to authorities. The passenger, Amira Malik, was transported to South County Hospital with minor injuries. Very fortunate for the outcome. Very experienced pilot. They were able to get out of the aircraft. As the chief mentioned, having a good Samaritan nearby that immediately responded over, took possession of the 2 people, and then brought them back to shore awaiting rescue was critical for this. Chief of Rhode Island and Environmental Police Dean Hoxie said, I watched it fly right in front of my house, and it took a little bit of a dip, and the rotor caught it, and it turned right upside down, Ted Watson, a neighbor, said. Officials said the helicopter is owned by Nantucket Helicopter, and it was leased by Regent Craft. According to South Kingston Police, Malik is an employee of Regent Craft, a manufacturer of sea gliders. Regent officials said the helicopter was flown by a contracted pilot. Law enforcement said Regent Craft was testing sensors that can be mounted on the chopper over the pond at the time of the crash. They used this pond because it was smooth like a mirror today. It's very calm and really ideal condition for them to do such testing, Hoxie claims. The North Kingstown-based company is working on what is called a sea glider. Once it's listed as, or I should say online, it's listed as a vehicle that runs a few meters above the water's surface at high speeds like an airplane. It's unclear when the crews might be able to pull the helicopter out of the water. I believe they've already actually done that. Authorities are trying to determine if they can deploy another airbag and tow it back to shore. South Kingstown Police Fire and Rescue assisted with the response. The crash was reported at 8:24 a.m. And what's crazy is Matt Thayer had taken his boat out shortly after this whole thing had happened and actually got really good close-up video of this chopper in the water. And of course, I said to him, I was like, is it all right if I use some of this footage? Because he sent it to me. I was like, I'll make a reel and I'll put you on as a partner with it. He said, okay, cool. So we put that together. And of course, the first comment that Matt leaves, he goes,
get in the chopper now.
To which I was like, I knew someone was going to say that. I'm just glad it was you that did it. Oh. So, I mean, what a wild day. Pat's chiming in right here. He goes, Bob, he says, Bob's a great guy, a hell of a stick. I'm glad his outboard was running well. Yeah, I too. He says that they pulled it out with another chopper on Wednesday or Thursday. I remember seeing some pictures of that. It's kind of crazy. And I remember thinking to myself, like,
what if lightning strikes twice?
You know, where's Bob? Is Bob on the water? Can we get Bob on the water just as a safety? I couldn't imagine being on the water when that thing crashed. You know, like a 2-pound bass jumps out of the water and all of us are like, did you see that? Oh my God. Like, can you imagine a chopper just falling out of the sky and hitting. Oh my God. They're lucky to be alive, in my opinion, you know? They really, really are. And it's good that they were able to get out of it as quickly as they did. And they're very, very lucky that Bob was there to get them to shore as quickly as he would, because that could have been a whole other situation. But man, it was wild. Let's go ahead, guys. Regroup. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more Jigs and Bigs goodness after this. We got Just the Tip. We got a couple of FTGs to dole out, maybe even 3. Yeah, 3. Noelle's got one to throw in there too. 3. Wow, this is a trifecta of FTG. And then, of course, we have some, Gear of the Week. This is related to, we're going to find out, polygraphs in tournament fishing. Don't go too far, guys. We got more Jigs and Bigs coming up right after this. Jigs and Bigs wants to take a moment to say thank you to our partners for helping us continue to push the limits of our fishing adventures and bring you amazing long-form podcast content. We need to thank Dark Horse Tackle, Omnia Fishing, A-Bay Lure, The Bay House, and The Ship Motel. We can't forget about Three Bells Outfitters, Torres Sunglasses, and of course, Reaction Tackle. Be sure to check the description of this podcast for any associated affiliate links or promo codes they've generously provided our listening audience. Again, we cannot thank our partners enough for their support. Please consider supporting them and supporting the show in the same process. Thanks. Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one with the impeccable taste in fishing podcasts. Bobby Roast Beef here with a little call to action for all Jigs and Bigs listeners. We're opening up our hotline to you. Now you can call us to sound off about almost anything at 413-324-8519. Want to submit someone for our FTG segment? Call us at 413-324-8519. Care to maybe suggest a topic for Just the Tip or Bait of the Week? Call us at 413-324-8519. Maybe you just want to give us or anyone else a little shout out on the show, or you want to suggest a guest for the beef seat. You guessed it. Call us at 413-324-8519. The Jigs and Bigs hotline is there for you to leave a message with us 24/7. Just call 413-324-8519. Also, you can check that number in the notes of this podcast.
And perhaps play a little game called Just the Tip. Just for a second, just to see how it feels. Or, ouch, ouch, you're on my hair.
Okay.
You guys do know where that sound clip comes from for Just the Tip, right? The movie?
No.
I do.
I do.
No.
Wedding Crashers.
Yes.
Yeah, Wedding Crashers.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good. I was like, what could we use for Just the Tip as part of the intro? And I'm like, oh, there we go.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. So we got a good one this week. And this is going to hit, I feel like this is actually going to be good and educational for the listener of this show, because we have the newbie boat owner, Noelle, having her reaction to what Joe is about to explain is...
Listen, first off, Noelle, I had this planned before I knew you kind of were coming on, had the boat and everything. So I don't want you to think that it's directed.
You're not targeted
towards you. No, yeah. So
you're all just ready to go. You're like, Noelle, targeting you.
Oh, as soon as I saw you got a boat, I was like, perfect. I was like, this is the money shot right here. So today at Just a Tip, we're going to have a little segment or a little talk on just the woes of owning a bass boat or boat in general. So one thing I'm going to say is there's a reason why financial planners, financial analysts tell you that boats are the absolute worst financial decision you could ever make. Mm-hmm. They make you happy. You love them. I love it. I wouldn't change anything, but there's a reason. So it doesn't matter how new, how old your boat is, things are going to go wrong. Just by just by whatever reason, just the nature of the beast, boats break, and they break a lot. Things on boats are always breaking. And I mean, look at I paid a lot of money for my boat 2 years ago. I do.
It's only 2 years old. Oh.
It's only 2 years old.
No, don't say that to me.
And actually, for what it's worth, I think Joe has had a great stretch so far.
I have. Yeah. I have. I mean, my first big boat woe with the Skeeter was when I was down at Lake Hartwell and my onboard charger blew.
That's right.
And I don't know if you ever heard this story, Noelle, but I was down. So I was staying in a hotel down there. It was a 3-day tournament. I was down there for a week. But the day before the tournament, my onboard charger decided to blow. So I had to go to Walmart and buy 4 different trickle chargers, and I had to run. I can't believe the hotel didn't kick me out because I had to run 4 separate extension cords to each charger to charge each battery.
Straight redneckery.
Because there's 4 batteries on my boat. So like I had the side door at every hotel that they keep locked, but it's like a side entrance for the guests. I had it propped open for 3 days. So like the security of the hotel was totally gone because of me, because I had to prop it open to have the extension cords out there. But that was my first one. That was my first one that hurt. And the unfortunate thing, that one wasn't covered by warranty because those things are only warranted for a year. And then this one, I mean, granted, I had some battery issues from the get-go because I was running lead acid. Noelle, if there's anything you could do to that boat, invest in lithium batteries. Lithium batteries are the way to go. I know you probably have a shit ton of contacts for them. Do yourself a favor and do it. Trust me on that one. That was the biggest thing I could have did. But I mean, just out there, and I mean, people listening in, anyone who owns a bass boat, you'll know it doesn't matter how new, how good the condition is, what they say the reliability is, stuff's going to go wrong. Luckily, warranty will cover a lot of stuff for the first few years. There's stuff that they won't cover. Make sure that when you do any type of modifications to your boat, whether it's electronics or whatever, either make sure you know what you're doing or have it done at a professional shop, because they will, if you have an issue, they will, and you bring it down to get warranted, they will call you out immediately if something wasn't done correctly, and they'll try to say that whatever you have going on wrong is because of that. I've also seen that, not personally, I've seen that happen, but obviously still do your due diligence of doing all your maintenance. Don't forget to do your maintenance, but just know that stuff is going to go wrong. It's okay. It might get a little expensive on times, but I love it. I love my boat. I love fishing. I'm not going to not do it. Yeah, it's worth it. This is like a just a tip and broke on the boat segment, like all mashed together. Yeah. So it's Dan lives right down the street from me. He keeps commenting, and I can't tell you how often. He's like, oh, dude, this just went wrong with my boat. I'm like, oh, that's funny because this just went wrong with my boat. 9 times out of 10, it's something stupid. If you just look it up on Google, you can figure it out yourself. But it's those times where, like what I'm dealing with, where I got to drive the boat down 2 hours now and probably have it there for a few days so they can fix it, and probably try to figure out some reason to tell me some reason why it's not warranted.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's my tip is. And broke on the boat suggestion is, if you want to get one, because it'll make you happy and you'll never be happier. But just be ready for the times that this stuff happens. It's going to make you a little sad. It's going to make you a little upset, but it's okay because it's fixable. And if it's real bad, there's people out there that'll just be that mechanics and whatnot. They'll be like, well, let's just total and do an insurance claim. So you always have that. I'm not going to. Just kidding, everybody. Just kidding. But I'm not gonna lie. Part of me was like, when my tilt wasn't working, I was like, all right, if I shoot a couple holes into the bottom of this right now, like, how would my insurance claim be? Like, what could I get for a new boat? I'm not gonna lie.
Joe, you are aware that this is going on the internet, right?
Just kidding, everyone. Just kidding.
Just kidding.
No, I love my boat. I love my boat. I I love how she hates me sometimes, though.
Oh yeah.
But
well, and I think that I would, again, I'm saying this as somebody that, number one, does not fish tournaments like the way you do, Joe, and also is in a 100 and some odd pound piece of plastic. I gotta think that there's some degree of that there's got to be a relationship between how hard you're pushing that boat in a tournament situation, because you are. Yeah, you know what I mean?
That's the other thing I should have mentioned. Like, and Noelle, get this, because it sounds like you're trying to get into the tournament world. Your boat is, as much as I'd like to say I baby my boat, because I do and I take care of her, when you're in these tournaments, you kind of kick the shit out of them a little bit, and you kind of have to. It's just the way it is. You like to say they're built for that and they can hold up to that, but like I said, things happen.
Oh yeah.
So you can baby them as much as you want, but sometimes you got to drag them through the mud a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, make them earn their keep. But you're gonna love it. I'm glad you got one. Again, this was in no way correlated with the fact that you were coming on today.
It was just a happy accident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've been watching my stories all week going, I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like, oh, it's like the show outlines writing itself.
That's why you reached out to me, Bobby. Makes perfect sense. You guys correlated this.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, shit, she's on to us. Abracadabra, abracadabra.
Oh, my goodness. So now we have a triple. What we're gonna do is let's just go ahead and do this. This is actually really great that we have so many FTGs this week. It's how you know that spring is in the air. Then the fuckery is just out there. So Noelle,
we haven't had one for a few weeks.
We haven't. Yeah, everybody's pretty much been, and now they're in spades. So Noelle, we'll give you. You're our guest. You go ahead, take the lead. What is your FTG that you experienced on Winnie?
Okay, sure. So I put my boat in for the very, very first time yesterday, and I'm like all nervous and everything because like I haven't driven a boat since my dad had one 3 to 5 years ago. Never mind just like docking, coming off the dock, whatever, just putting it in. So, I mean, I grew up with boats, so I have some experience, but we put it in. I'm all nervous. My dad's there. Tim's there. It's a whole thing. I'm like in the driver's seat, like, okay, now let's get off the dock. We just put in. Out of nowhere, these two guys in this little John boat situation come out of nowhere and they're like, you guys leaving? And we're like, yeah, like hold up. And they come around, and mind you, like this dock is not very long. Like it could fit like two boats, but like not well.
Yeah.
And we were on the very back end, but this guy comes around, he's like, oh shoot, realizing how actually shallow it is right in front of us. Now he's trying to back out, and I'm literally sitting there like, if you had just waited a second, I would be able to like back out and get out of here. Yeah. But he's huffing and puffing, this old guy, just all furious that I hadn't gotten out of the way like 10 minutes ago when he was on the other side of the bay. Okay. Jeez. So now next thing you know, we push off, I'm backing up, whatever, I'm turning around. Yep. And I'm like, perfect. I have a perfect shot around this guy. Next thing you know, he's like, whoo, and like turns the other way. Now I'm like, now we're in this weird, like, I'm like, bro, if you could just like, hold on. He's
take a breath.
Pissed.
Yeah.
Pissed. And my dad's like, you've got to be kidding me right now. And this other guy's like, and I'm like, bro, I just want to get out. This is my first time on the boat. Like, what are you doing? And he's like skirting around. And I just was like, F you, dude. Like, get out of here. Like, there was no reason for like this whole, like, let me go around you, try to boat park, and then, dock, come off. I'm like, dude, like, you could have just like this. There was another guy waiting on the other side to get on the other side. And he was like watching this, like, are you real trout guys? Trout but they were trout guys. Yeah, of course. for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, but yeah, that's my story.
That's unfortunate. It's kind of unfortunate, but like good that you got it out of the way, like right off the rip, because it's kind of crazy when he was probably a local guy to win. He probably goes there all the time, but you're gonna run into those guys that think they own the ramp.
The entitlement
they think it's theirs. They think, and somehow you just manage to, the first time you launch your boat, you manage to meet one of those, and it's super unfortunate. It's like, I don't know what got into your Wheaties today, but yeah, it will not be your last time you deal with those guys.
Yeah,
I just hate when you have like all those positives and then all of a sudden it's like negative. When you're going into it and you're like literally like, this is stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Negative people will always bring negativity into your life, no matter what.
Oh yeah, and it could totally be avoided. Like if people just kind of like slow it down at the launch. Remember, Joe, when you and I did that Memorial Day tournament? And we were at the end at weigh-in, dude, it was chaos at the ramp.
Oh yes, it was.
And I'm like, this is fucking insane. Like they're trying to do a weigh-in here, and you've got like 1,000 jet skis trying to launch all at the same time. Holiday weekend, like I get it, it's crazy, but like that was just like a random Saturday in April, you know, and like you're experiencing this at that's just shitty, and it's right. Joe nails it, like. Probably some local douchebag feels completely entitled, probably fished that lake his entire life, and is just like, oh, I gotta get out of here. And you know, again, I'm always that fucking hippie that's like, you never know what exactly happened. You might have gotten an emergency phone call or some shit like that or whatever. But at the same time, it's like there's certain things like traffic you can't control. You know, whether it's boat traffic or it's on the roads, you know, so it's like you just got to roll with it, man, and make it work.
Bobby, I think I just figured it out. I figured out what's wrong with my boat.
What's that?
Maybe we knocked something loose that time last year that we were about 3 feet out of the water.
I bet you we did. Yeah.
Coming back.
There was
when we hit that wake.
Yeah, that was something. That was something, man. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Noelle, you should. We were on the Connecticut River, and God, we were like 12 miles, 15 miles up or something like that, Bobby?
Yeah.
And we had to race back. So we're doing probably 60, 65 on the river. But there's boats and wakes everywhere. And then we just hit one where I have no doubt in my mind that the entire boat and prop are probably out of the water. And we just smashed right there.
It was like the ride back felt like every
cool, but
the ride back that day felt like every single 80s skiing movie that there ever was. Like I just imagine some like guitar riff like it was ridiculous.
Yep. And Bobby's I like, the funny part is it's like in my mind, I like looking out the corner of my eye, I'm like, oh man, Bobby's scared. I was like, that's good though, because I'm really scared too.
I'm just holding on.
Like he probably thinks like, okay, I'm good. Joe's got this. Well, I didn't have it.
He didn't have it. No. There's moments like that, I think, every single time. But, you know, and you figure out your limitations, too. Like, you know, not only just like with dealing with assholes and stuff like that, but, you know, when you got to be at the ramp now. Like there's some sort of like critical emergency. You got to be there. You get pretty comfortable pretty quick what's going on. Mm-hmm. So we have two more, and unfortunately I downloaded these and I didn't rename them, so I'm not sure whose is what. So I'm gonna play the audio for these FTG calls that came in from the hotline, and then we'll just kind of go and review exactly what it's all about. So let's go ahead. We'll turn this guy up here.
Gentlemen, it's Matt the helicopter hunter from good old southern Rhode Island. Just wanted to call in for this week's FTG. So after I caught some fish and checked out this helicopter that landed in a pond, I'm sure you guys have already talked about it, or maybe will be talking about it. There was another boat out on the water that decided, hey, I'm going to go check out this helicopter that landed in this pond. Cool. They went out, you know, they were driving around in this raggedy-ass ski boat, you know. But anyways, driving back to the ramp, you know, it's dusk. It's getting pretty dark. And I see a truck with a trailer in the water. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Somebody coming out to catch a glimpse of the helicopter? You know, no. No lights are on, no nothing. Homie just left his truck and trailer at the ramp. Yes, there's another spot at that ramp that I could that you could actually launch and load a boat from, but still, it's for 2 boats, 2 trucks, whatever you want to say. So then, after I drive in, my buddy's with me. He hangs out on the boat, and the other 2 goons are coming in. And I back my truck in. While I'm backing my trailer in, these guys wanted to decide to load their boat on the trailer that was already in the water. They don't want to wait.
Oh, the trailer was in the water.
Me, I'm not going to wait. Hop in my boat. I told my buddy Gabe to get in my truck to pull me out. And then these guys are still proceeding to try to load their boat. And they're swearing at each other, this, that, and the other thing. And then one turns around and asks me, "Hey, man, did you catch anything?" I just turned around and said, "Yeah, caught a few." Hopefully, he got the message that I was not happy. Anyways, don't leave your boat, trailer, truck and trailer, unattended, blocking a spot at the ramp. And when somebody's trying to load their boat that got there before you, be courteous to that person that is trying to load their boat on their trailer. Just a quick little long FTG. Thank you guys. Keep doing you. Keep doing a great job. See you later.
I'm not even mad because that's like one of the craziest things I've heard.
I didn't realize that they left the trailer in the water.
That is gnarly.
What kind of degenerate son of a bitch does that? Like, backs the boat and they're like, "All right, cool. I guess, hey, there's a parking spot right here. We're good. Let's go, guys." I mean, and they were going to see the helicopter wreck. Like, what if some emergency services or something needed to get in there to retrieve that helicopter or something, or inspect whatever? What?
I don't know. It's Rhode Island.
It hurts my head. It hurts.
Rhode Island.
Oh God, it's so stupid. And it's like, I feel like I forgot actually that was what he was going to talk about. We had talked a little bit about before, and he's like, "Oh, I got an FTG for you, and it's this." And he actually took a picture of it. So I'll put that up on Instagram. We'll go ahead and pop that one up there. But he had mentioned that they were blocking the trailer. I did not realize they were just blocking the ramp. I didn't realize that the trailer was still in the water. What kind of fucking idiot? Oh my God.
That's ridiculous.
How unaware are you of what's going on? Like,
yeah.
Oh.
Sounds like some Peter Griffin shit.
It is some Peter Griffin shit. Idiots are leaving. They're taking off on the ramp and they're like,
I've never, like, all the crazy stories I've heard at the boat ramp. That's definitely a first. That's definitely a first.
Crazy. Like, oh, bye. You're going to just.
Yeah, see ya. Hey, did you lock it? Did you lock the truck?
You know what? And Pat makes a really good point here. Goes, I really couldn't believe they didn't close the ramp that day. It's wild, man. It's wild. Just where folks are sometimes where their heads are at. It's just bananas. But we got another one here, and this one I feel like might even have a little bit of like an educational spin in there for you guys. Let's go ahead. We'll take a listen here with this little educational spin.
Hey guys, this is Tim Behan from the Multi-Species Tournament. I got a FTG, or maybe it's called a LL, lesson learned. I was out fishing yesterday morning between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. before work. Try to get in an hour of fishing. The local pond's like 200 acres. There's a road that cuts it in half. I'm fishing the bank. I've got a couple of poles going for bullhead catfish and carp, but I already had a carp, so I was really focused on bullhead catfish. So I got my rod set up. They're leaning against the metal guardrail out in the water. And about 25 minutes in, my rod starts, flickering. So I grabbed it, pulled it back. I got a fish. All right. After about 3 seconds, I knew it was a decent-sized fish. And the way it was swimming, I said, this is a carp. So after 15, 16 minutes, I finally landed it. Ends up being a 32.5-inch carp, the state pin in Massachusetts.
Nice.
So I was like, nice. And in the lengthwise for the multi-species tournament, 32.5 inches, I just upsized from a 17-inch carp, so bonus. So I laid him down on my catch board, took a photo, checked the mouth, it's touching the front. I looked at the tail, looks good. Threw the fish back in the water. And I went to upload it to the site. The catch board, not the catch board, but the fish was so big, it was covering the catch board identifier card. I got it attached to the catch board with their system. It slides on. The fish totally covers 100% of the identifier card. So I got no code in the photo. I was like, shit, you got to be kidding me. So I guess that's the FTG of the day. Lesson learned. Make sure your goddamn passcode is in the picture before you throw the fish back. Have a good one, guys. Keep up the good work.
Tim Behan, thank you so much for that FTG, because before Joe had that just the tip in there, I was going to suggest take a look at the jig heads on my hand. You can see a little bit of faint marker on my hand. That's my identifier. It is always a good idea to write the identifiers on your hand so that if nothing else, you forget it, anything like that, you've got the identifier in the picture. That's just brutal. I mean, I'm glad he got a pin for that fish. Because that's great. But like, that would have helped a lot. That's brutal, man. We've actually had a couple of fish come in where they were so large, I actually couldn't read the numbers on the board. They were just covering the numbers on the board. We had one that was, I think it was a northern pike. And it was like a 34-inch northern, and it was a 32-inch catch board. So I was like, I can give you the inches for the length of the board, but I'm like, I've got no reference for what's hanging off. So I'm like, we'll call it 32. It'll be 32. And he was like, I'll take it. You know what I mean? Just an absolute giant. So this is like when we say, stupid little things like having a tape measure that you're going to line up alongside your board off to the side that gives a frame of reference of like, if you're measuring a fish longer than the board, you've got something there, but you've got the bump board, the actual upright position here where you can have that nose making contact, that lower jaw making contact. And then the other one with the identifier, just writing it on the back of your hand. It doesn't have to be fancy. A lot of people go out and they buy the like little catch ID carriers that go on the catch board itself. They're attached to it, and they're great. We had a guy submit a fish where he was actually taking the identifier in a little carrier and putting it right on the fish, which I can't accept either because I've got to be able to see the whole fish except for your hand. So that's why just write it on your hand. I've started. There are pictures that I've taken where I've written my identifier in garlic marker on my hand. I'm not proud to say it. Where I've taken Spike It garlic marker and written the identifier, and I'm like, you dumb bastard. So now I have like a whole pack of Sharpies that go in every single tackle bag I go anywhere. Because, I mean, I'm Italian. I love garlic. I don't like that garlic. You know what I'm saying? No, it's not good. Man, let's jump in here. That is just bananas. Tim, thank you. I appreciate it. And you're right. Yeah, that is definitely like a lesson learned type situation. And always one of those things where before you release that fish, go back and look at that picture and make sure it's all good. And this is where like nets are huge. Have a net. It's like having a little live well, It definitely help you save that fish if you have to, retake photos or something. What do we got? John Higgins says, I've seen dudes in catfish tournaments, etc., etch the identifier in mud on their board. Oh, I could see people do that too. Yeah, for sure. Just carve it into the ground and you're like, there it is. See?
Smart.
I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. You have to do what you have to do. That is freaking just unbelievable. I can't believe.
I'd be more impressed if they carved it into their hand.
Like the Slayer, like there's.
Whoa.
But then what do you do next month when it's a new identifier?
Yeah, right. When it's a different.
Just scarred numbers all the time. Like, are you all right?
I think you need to see a professional. I think we need to. Have you tried BetterHelp? Oh my goodness!
Sponsor here.
That's BetterHelp. There you go. We're here for you, and we'd be great case subjects for you.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and dive into this because I'm really curious about this.
Okay, gearheads, it's time to talk tools. Jigs and Bigs Gear of the Week.
The thing with Gear of the Week is that a lot of folks think that this is, and obviously we talk tackle a lot, but this is an interesting one because it's very niche, but I think it plays a big role. And I think that a lot of people just kind of just like are unaware of the level that it plays in tournament fishing, or they downplay the significance of it. So Joe, go ahead and tell us what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, again, it's not really so much a gear of the week, but I do want to kind of give a little bit of homework to the listeners, jig heads, everybody. So as I talked about a little bit earlier of in the news headlines of that gentleman that was disqualified because he had failed a polygraph test that was given to him after a tournament. For a lot of you that don't know or don't fish tournaments, many large tournaments that there's big payouts such as, tens of thousands of dollars or boats or whatever. Mm-hmm. You are required to sign a waiver before the tournament saying that you will comply with a polygraph if need be, a polygraph test if need be. Typically for a tournament, for the big tournaments, a lot of them will set like the top three will have to take one no matter what. And then they'll do like 3 to 5 random tests throughout other people in the tournament. It's kind of wild. It was something that I was very new to and I didn't know about until recently when I started fishing the big tournaments. But so basically, I kind of want to see what everyone thinks about this. And here's why. So I'm going to be 100% honest. When I read that news headline I gave you guys, I thought it kind of smelled a little bit because there are so many factors that can come into play with a polygraph test. Yep. I'm not going to get into it very, very much, but I do have a little bit of experience with them from my work, my job. And they can be very indecisive in the aspect of depending on who's giving them, is a big one. Everybody responds to them differently. And if it's not calibrated correctly, you could fail just from being nervous. That is a thing that can happen. They do calibrate it, quote unquote, as long as it's done correctly so that you essentially should not fail it for being nervous, but it still happens, especially if it's somebody that's not experienced in giving them or reading them correctly. And it kind of rubs me the wrong way that there is no other defining factors other than the polygraph. And now this guy didn't win the tournament.
I only have so much experience with polygraphs. I've seen before where there's like baseline questions that they'll ask you, like name and address and things like that to try to get that like leveled. But what is it they're asking you?
So did you cheat?
Like, I mean, what else is there?
And it's that's the other thing too. It's like there's so many like variables that I'm very curious about. I have not luckily, I haven't gotten in the top 3 in one of these big tournaments and I haven't been randomly picked.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you right now, like I went through some training for work that I did one. And even though it was like training, you're like terrified. You're like, it's a very weird feeling. Yeah, it's very, so it's like, I don't know. It's tough for me. I guess I would have to know a little bit more about it. And I wish they gave a little bit of context to it because other than, there was a tip, so they gave him a polygraph. Well, what was that tip? Like, what was he supposedly doing? And if it's a question like you say, like, were you cheating? Well, you could have done a lot of like accidental things that in your mind. It could have been, like, it could have been, oh shit, like, oh man, I caught that on a lead jig. I'm really only supposed to use a tungsten jig in this state. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, technically it's against the rules or whatever, and maybe that would ultimately disqualify him. But I don't know. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and I kind of want to know what everybody feels about that. I want to know what the jig heads, the listeners feel about it. Is that something that you kind of think is, something they should continue to do? Is it something that you think is a good,
polygraphs aren't cheap. You know what I mean?
So, and that's what polygraphs done by the proper professionals aren't cheap.
Yeah.
So then you get into like, well, then who are they having it done by?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Is it the most updated modern equipment? Is it just like some 80-year-old guy that did it for the Detroit Police Department back in the late 60s, early 70s? You know what I mean? There's a lot of variables to it. I get it. I get that they think that that's the best way to figure out if someone's cheating or not, I suppose. But I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like I'm very like relevant with the sport, and I understand why they do a lot of things. I just think there could be something better. There's got to be a different way, because there's so many different variables to that. And God forbid somebody, wins a tournament and for some reason they do fail and they actually didn't do anything wrong. Now they're out up to upwards of tens of thousands of dollars or a new boat or whatever. And
we got a couple comments in here. John Hagan says it's cousin Eddie with his homemade polygraph machine. And then Todd Sefton says the big leagues use them often, I believe. They're hired professionals. See, I think at the elite level, they've got the budget to do it, and do it the right way.
I do know that they use actual professionals, but this was I don't have it up anymore, but it was, and I didn't want to say the league because I didn't want to friggin' name this guy or anything.
No,
but it was actually a Baptist church fishing league.
Oh, really?
So they probably don't have thousands of dollars to throw to a polygraph, a polygraph professional, but yeah, I don't know. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
They do have the money. They do have the money.
Probably right.
Yeah, they have the money.
Probably right.
Are they going to spend it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
man, that's like an interview with him after it all, like to be like, what do you have to say for yourself, or like
no, that's a thing, and that's I haven't seen. This is very fresh, and it was very. I just so happened to stumble upon it, and there's not much out there in regards to it, which also tells me it was a very low level tournament.
Yeah.
But you know how it is. Everyone just, and the why I didn't want to name this guy because in my mind, you're innocent until proven guilty. And I wasn't going to bash this guy, but unfortunately that's what the internet is doing right now.
Yeah. That's how it works.
They're just assuming that, there's guys like, oh, I fished with him. Like he wins a lot of tournaments. That makes sense that he's cheating and and like, it's
that's frustrating.
Well, what's the content? Like what's the context? Like give me a little bit more. You know what I mean?
It's funny. Like Chrissy, she chimes in. She goes, I feel like there's cheaters in every sport where money is involved, but I would 100% fail the polygraph due to being crazy nervous. And then Todd chimes in. He goes, if money's involved, people try anything they can. Actually, there doesn't even have to be money on. It is a human nature to try to pull a fast one, to try to cut a corner just to see if you can. It is just the way human beings work. I say this because I see it all the time at trivia night. People are competing quite literally in some cases for a $5 gift card. That's it. And I've seen people that will, and luckily, when folks try to cheat at trivia the way that I do things, it's pretty obvious to me when they are, and it never, ever, ever ends with them actually winning. Like it doesn't. And they end up shooting themselves in the foot more times than not. But in a situation where, like, let's take an example like those two walleye guys, that was the big news everywhere. And then you would hear anglers say all the time, like, oh, cheating happens all the time. And, this such and such. I mean, like, I feel like that's part of the risk that you have to take because, like, again,
100%. You couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah, if it's a small trail, right? And they're like, "Oh, we're going to polygraph test." What good is that if it's Jim Bob's polygraph machine that hasn't been calibrated in 6 months and he doesn't know how to calibrate it? He lost the PDF because, his laptop got seized for whatever reason. I'm painting Jim Bob out to be some nefarious person, but you know what I mean? Like, and then who's to say that, like, the person running the polygraph isn't in on it? And like, and just going like
and bribing or anything like that too going on the side. But also like, if I were in a tournament that I knew I was going to get polygraphed or there was a chance, I wouldn't really want to run that risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Guess what I'm not doing?
So,
Guess what I'm not doing? Cheating.
Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe there's an element to that's existing there. Like that's the reason they're using the polygraph is they're like, well, the fear of being under the scrutiny of a polygraph test is enough to make people be honest.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess he lost. Somehow it didn't work out for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the crazy part is like, at least some of those big tournaments, going in that, hey, it's a chance. But like this, it was like an afterthought with this one, which is like, that's like, it kind of makes it stink a little bit. Like, oh, you think you might have been cheating? Well, let's fucking polygraph him.
I gotta know.
That's wild.
I'm gonna just go to the app store and I'm gonna see if there is a lie detector.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I thought of the same thing.
I just want to know.
There is. I'd be so curious.
Yeah. Yep.
There is.
Yeah, there's multiples, and I'm sure that they're just for entertainment purposes.
Sure.
Polygraph.
That's kind of cool.
I might have to work.
Yeah,
I might have to put my journalism hat on.
Now there's AI.
Yeah, I want to know like everything that happened to this guy.
I might actually try to reach out to these people and like I might do it. I'm going to put on the Jigs and Bigs journalism hat.
Let's get him on the damn show. Yeah, I think we get him on the show. We get some follow up. Let's blow the cover off of this bullshit polygraph operation that these crumb snatching back.
But you know what? At the same end, the dude who got polygraphed could be the biggest piece of shit on the planet. You know what I mean?
You guys might uncover something really amazing. That either sucks or that league sucked.
John Akins goes, before I decided to try this online tournament fishing, I spent the last 11 years running a competitive adult flag football team, and there was so much cheating in tournaments. 100%. And it didn't matter if it was for money or bragging rights. People cheat. Yeah, it's true, man. Like
they cheat, they trying.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's like, and it's weird because like you think with fishing, you're like something as obvious as like stuffing weights into your fish, creating a pen and going and pre-fishing and putting all your big fish into a pen.
Lobster traps and shit. Yeah,
man.
Yep.
Like that's.
I've never even thought of that. That's crazy.
That's something that happens down south a lot.
That's nuts.
Yeah,
and you would think that like, with the technology with drones and things like that, they would be able to do a sweep like 12 hours beforehand and go like, what the hell is that? And then just go, I mean, it's wild, dude. The things that people will do just to try to, there was I forget, somebody in a CPR tournament said that there was this is where they changed the ruling on where you could place your hand on a fish, where like folks would cut like a piece of the tail and then actually take a large fish and then submit it twice as a shorter fish.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You get to your limit that much faster. And it's like, number one, why are you cutting off this fish's tail? Right? Essentially. Yeah, that's just bizarre. And secondly, like what are you, especially at these low-level tournaments, I understand you sunk some money into it, but what are you really winning? You know what I mean? Is it worth your reputation to be able to not do this shit again? See, I think that would be the deterrent. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. So
trouble hook and spawn.
I'm not going to name any names or anything, but that is a supposed tactic that has happened in our tournament league that has been like on the realm of being investigated.
Snagging spawners.
Yeah.
What side little tangent here. Have you guys noticed that there's a lot of talk about sight fishing, spawning fish, and like I guess the morality of it? I feel like now that's becoming a little bit more of a major thing in a conversation where I feel like there's a lot of anglers that are like, well, I don't fish when fish are on beds. Like, okay, well, good for you. Like, but I will, and I will put them right fucking back where they go, right there. I'm not taking them anywhere. But it's like, I feel like that's a topic that's been coming up more and more. I feel like we're probably going to have to, we can dedicate an entire segment to that with jig heads and stuff. We'll have to do that. There's a bunch of shit we actually need to get to. That's wild though, man.
I want to know what the listeners think. And I'm going to try to dig I'm going to try to dig a little bit.
Let us know.
Yeah. So maybe possibly more to come.
Yeah, definitely let us know. If you guys, what are your thoughts when it comes to polygraphs in tournament fishing? Like, is it the end all be all? Is it the best method we have to judge somebody's honesty? Or is there, or is it just something we just have to accept and you know, take that risk that somebody might be bullshitting and maybe they're wasting their money on polygraphs. Who knows? Again, clench your butthole and you'll be fine. Like, I'm just saying. When you're in the test, the whole thing, clench that. Make a diamond. That's what I'm saying. You'll be all right. Noelle's like, I am never going to be on this degenerate show again.
I'm going to use that exact
messed up, Noelle.
if I ever. People are going to look at me and be like, why does your face look like that? I'm trying not to lie. That's all.
Exactly. That's exactly it. You'd be like, was you really pensive, really focused? I messed
There's
up.
a mugshot of me, and that's what goes viral if I ever get caught cheating or so nervous I get caught not cheating, but I was just nervous.
Well, no, we had to disqualify her.
Face. She didn't nervous hard enough. That's all.
I messed up so early on. Before we started this live, I was supposed to send a link to Fishing with Becca so she could troll you during this whole show. Yeah.
She would. And she would.
Oh, she 100% would.
Oh, we love and we hate each other.
I know. You guys are always just butting heads. It's crazy. I love it. I love it. It's awesome. What a great freaking show so far. Guys, we're going to take a short break. And when we get back, we're going to loop back around. We're going to catch up even more with Noelle, and we're going to take your questions as well. If you guys have any questions, I'm talking to the jig heads. If you guys have any questions for Noelle, go ahead and leave them in the chat. I'm going to go through and put these together, and we'll see you guys on the other side of the show. All right, you guys have a good one. Don't go too far. Much more Jigs and Bigs coming up after this. Hey guys, Bobby Roast Beef here from Jigs and Bigs. You know, if there's one thing I can't stand spending money on, it's on something that's not versatile, something that I can't get a lot of use out of. I want to talk to you about Frost Buddy. What Frost Buddy is it's one of those can coolers. I've seen these before. In fact, I have some that are limited to only fitting one specific size of can, like a standard 12-ounce can. I stumbled onto Frost Buddy, and I was blown away with it. So versatile. Fits standard cans, tall cans, slim cans, and even 12-ounce bottles. And the magic is the insert fits all of these items in various stages within the insert. And when you take that out, you can fit a full 16-ounce tall boy can. In fact, it even doubles down on being versatile with the coffee lid. And on my recent trip to Chickamauga, I had a field day with this thing. I was throwing beer cans in it. I'd have coffee in the morning. On the drive, I was throwing in all different sizes of cans for different canned coffee products to keep me awake on the long drive back. The thing was amazing. So I recommend you check out Frost Buddy. If you're in the market for either a travel cup for your coffee or a can cooler at all, either one of those, check it out. For the money, you cannot go wrong. What I've done is this. In the show notes for this podcast you're listening to right now, if you look there, you'll find a link to Frost Buddy where you can get yours. And not only can you go and get your Frost Buddy there, but you can help out the show as well. Go and visit that link in the show notes to this podcast. Check out a Frost Buddy. Tons of colors, tons of patterns, all kinds of great stuff. And it's a great spot to put your Jigs and Bigs sticker too. Take it from me, Bobby Roast Beef. You're going to get the most versatility out of this one product, probably out of anything you're ever going to buy, especially for anything that you're drinking. Frost Buddy. It works for me. I'm a happy guy. With Jigs and Bigs, segment number 3. We're gonna be wrapping things up, guys. We've got our guest host Noelle Roth with us. Noelle, do me a favor. Let's talk content because you've been all over the place. Like, what's been going on with you content wise? Do you have any plans? And let folks know where they can find you and check out your stuff.
Yeah, sure. You can find me at Noelle Roth on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Just all Noelle Roth. Very easy, very simple. Mm-hmm. Last year, I took a little break from YouTube, actually, because I broke my hand at the beginning of the spring. So I could not fish, and I was actually out of work till like the middle of summer. Like, I think I didn't start working again till August, and I broke it in May.
Holy shit.
Yeah, my motorcycle did a little tippy tip and went on my hand. Yeah.
I forgot you're a biker too.
Yeah,
what
dude.
doesn't Noelle do? My God.
I got all the toys.
Yeah, you do.
You can't keep me off them. Oh yeah, so that really sucked. So and then because of that though, I did a lot of traveling. Like I went to ICAST. Me and Tim got a massive toy hauler fifth wheel camper that has a garage and the whole thing, so that we could travel with the bikes. So we want to continue doing that. We were gonna live in it, and then the cost of land and even buying property and just all that, it just became ridiculous. So in the end, we just said, let's just get an apartment, and that's what we're doing for now. And we're going to travel and all that. But because of that, we were doing so much traveling that I just honestly was like, I'm going to take a little break and then get back to this, So now that was the big thing with the boat is I was like, it's time, it's game time. Let's get going on that. But I have dedicated the last couple of weeks really to pushing out content on my Instagram again. And that's been doing fantastic.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I appreciate a lot of my followers stuck around. But when I got engaged, I lost so many followers.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Man.
It was like, if you looked at my analytics, it was like rise. Whew. I lost like over 1,000 followers in like a couple days.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we built some of it back. It's been doing well.
Yeah.
But like all these guys here for not me.
I mean, look, I'm gonna say
I was like, what? And I'm always clothed. I mean, you can't even see my neck right now.
If you are following, if you are following fishing YouTubers because you're thinking that you might have a shot, and then when they're off the market, you're like, well, unfollow, unsubscribe.
Yeah. That's exactly what
kind
happened.
of a
And that
douchebag
also really
you?
ticked me off.
Yeah.
It
ticked me off too.
I was like, you know what?
Although actually, I'm so twisted, I'd take it as a compliment. I'd be like,
really?
Oh man, that must be why I don't have as many followers as I want because I'm married.
That's it. That's what it is. All the dudes, they're jealous.
Your hopeless romantic followers. Oh man, but you know what?
It's crazy.
That actually, in a way, if you take that like 10,000 foot view and you look at it, that's good. You trim the fat is what happened. You had dedicated followers that are engaged in what you're doing with and following along as spectators for what you're posting on your content streams. And those that dropped off were never really going to do anything good for you. And I'm a firm believer that number of followers is a step or two below the quality of followers. So if you have dedicated followers that are into what you're doing, I feel like that weighs infinitely more than just having like a giant number. There we go. Zach fucking nailed it. Yes.
Exactly. FTG, all of them, all those guys, like thousands of guys. And I'm still like, my analytics have been really tough because like, if I share anything of me and Tim or whatever, might as well it just keeps going. And then it builds back up because I'm actually been getting a lot of angling couples.
Yes.
Has been a new trend on my thing is I've been attracting a lot of men and women, like couples, or however, 2024. But it was like, it's been really, really cool to have that kind of engagement.
Yep.
But I've also been getting a lot of female followers lately. And I think it might be because I just did an article for Bassmast Her, which will all be released shortly.
Nice.
So yeah, that was a pretty big deal. It was like one of the first 5 to be interviewed for it.
That's freaking awesome.
So, yeah, that was cool. So that's a whole new article coming out, a whole new side of Bassmaster. That's Bassmast Her.
That's pretty cool.
I've heard that before, that Bassmaster is trying to do as much as they can to engage the female demographic to get that. Because, I mean, this is one thing. There is no need for like different leagues of, like everybody can fish, And I love, like you mentioned Christine Fisher before. Perfect example.
Yeah.
Perfect example. Like she's made a name, a household name amongst anglers. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I'm not going to say my kids aren't going to be like, oh, Christine Fisher. They have no idea. But for somebody who's into fishing and is aware of, they've heard that name before, and that's a step in the right direction. Yeah. You know, I think that's freaking awesome. Good for you, Noelle. I'm psyched for you.
Thanks. Yeah. So that'll be on my Instagram eventually. Awesome. I think the link is actually in my link tree in the bio of my Instagram. And it's also on YouTube too. I have my link tree. It's one of the first two links that it goes right to that article.
Yep.
But I'll be making like a post about it because like if you actually look up Bassmast Her right now, there actually isn't an article section just yet. It's hidden as they're building more, articles. So once that's released, it will actually be on my Instagram. It'll probably be a reel and the whole thing, but
that's freaking so cool. Awesome. Yeah. Make sure to tag us when you post anything on Instagram or on Facebook or anything like that. We will gladly share that. Like not only just a badass New England angler, but a badass female New England angler. Like good for you. Good for you.
Thanks.
We do have a couple of questions that did come in. Chrissy Fishing chimes in and she goes, Noelle, will Tim be your co-angler for when you get into I'm guessing she's thinking the bass boat tournament
world?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to say yes. We are in grooming season. I want to get used to, I want to get used to the boat too though. Like no pressure to him or anything, but like, this is a big deal. So like this probably won't be for another year or so, but I also am like weighing the options because I either want to go into tournaments or I want to really get into teaching kids. I talk about this in my article that like a big thing for me is I work in the spa world. So completely 180 from my hobbies, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I have so many friends and clients that are like, oh, my like daughter, my son, they really want to get into fishing, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
And in my article, it actually talks about that's how I started too. My parents are not anglers.
Yeah.
At all. They're outdoors people, but my dad's a motorhead. My mom did grow up kind of like learning how to do that stuff, but it was all of her siblings and her parents that really did it. And then generations up were hunters and anglers. But she really like doesn't know a lot. So essentially I want to be that in between that's like, hey, don't be scared. Come out. Let's just have a day on the water. If we catch things, great. If we don't, that's all right. But like, let me give you the tools so that you can take your child out or another relative, a parent, like whatever, and learn how to do this. And that's something like that I'm really passionate about because that's where I came from. Like, I think I'd be so much further in my knowledge if I had really grown up being like, I was an angler. Like I wasn't like, I fished, but like, if you ask what bait I was throwing a crankbait now that I know this. But back then I was like, this thing.
Yeah.
And I caught something on it. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know a whole lot until I like really started following Christine Fisher, John B., all that stuff when they were like years ago, just starting like Guggen at all wasn't even, the whole squad wasn't even a thing yet. He was just his own person. And that's where I learned everything.
I'm in the same boat. I did that in my 30s. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I fished with like mealworms and night crawlers, and I would fish with my dad. And, hey, it was fun. Occasionally we'd spring and get shiners. Nice. And it's like, and that was, and it was fun, but I wasn't really like engaged with it necessarily. And then YouTube kind of helped me kind of develop a little bit of know-how, which eventually led to confidence. And I think the idea of, and it doesn't have to be something major like a camp or something, though that would be great. But like you've got a great vehicle to be able to do it because you can use the social stuff, TikTok especially with the like younger kids for sure. But there's totally a market out there, and who knows, you could put together something where you're bringing a bunch of, you get a bunch of volunteers together to help. You're bringing a bunch of kids out and doing like clinics on like, hey, we're going to learn how to like, cast for the first time. Okay, cool. We figured out how to cast. Now, how do you tie this bait on? What's this? Little stuff like that. I think that is awesome. And the more we can do for kids to give them that resource, because you don't know necessarily what their situation is at home, what they've got for resources. Good for you. Good for you, Noelle. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And
so if I could do both, cool.
Yeah.
If I can't, that's fine. But like my future mother and father-in-law, I mean, they go to fly fishing like every Wednesday night. They like learn how to tie flies and do all that. And it's like, who's to say I couldn't use the cafeteria at a local high school and invite whoever wants to learn how to tie on a, let's say, Texas rig,
exactly.
And then what? Like, how is this used? Like,
oh, for sure. I mean, you can do
fly fishing communities doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why can't we? Because I have actually yet to see anything like that, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that there's definitely, it's amazing. Not even just kids. I'm thinking right now specifically, there's a bar where it was actually the bar we did the 100th show, Nathan Bills. The two bartenders, Sam and Chloe, that work with me, have both. I'll come in, and if I've caught fish that week, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a good game. And Sam knows. She's like, oh, what'd you catch? And I'll tell her, and I think it's adorable. And she's like, I want to learn how to fish. And I keep telling her, I'm like, I'll bring you out in the kayaks, and we'll go and do this. I was like, I think everybody should learn. You should. I think you should get a discount on your fishing license if you have a form that could be filled out where you taught somebody how to fish. I 100% think that would be a move in the right direction.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be a very good thing. That is awesome. We do have. You mentioned crankbaits, and John Hagens chimes in and he goes, "What is your go-to crankbait?" And I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you, okay? You don't have to pick just one. If you want to go in styles and go like a square bill, a lipless, a medium diver, and a deep diver, however you want to do it. That's
a really great question because there's not a crankbait that I don't fish and that I don't use. So most people know me, I'm very finesse, very light stuff. So on my really light rod, I do have these like itty bitty like Euro tackle ones. I mean, they're like an inch big, on like micro. And those are so fun to throw like around like little ponds that might be like a little weedy, but just the surface isn't. So they're super shallow diving, but they're beautiful. And I have like so much fun with that because you can catch anything. So any kid wanted to learn how to use like a hard plastic, micro, little like Euro tackle. They have like tiny little crankbaits, jerk baits, things like that. And they're like literally so much fun. And they're little square bills. So it's like they do go down like a couple inches and then come back up. You know, they're fluttery and they're fun and they're easy because you can just cast and like roll nice and slow.
Chuck and wind.
Surface level.
Yep.
But then like today, I'm throwing like a Strike King KVD deep dive. Like this thing probably, I mean, deep dive, I mean, it's between 8 and 12 feet.
Yeah.
But like, that's what I was throwing today. And it was like a shad color with a little bit of blue. I wish I knew the name of it, but you know, when you throw the packaging out.
There it goes.
I'd have to like actually look it up. But like this time of the year, I normally I like square bills personally. I have this weird thing about lipless crankbaits. I would love to hear how and why people like them so much. I don't know what it is, but like I'm either intimidated or I'm just not sure about it because I like really moving baits. Like, I don't know. Like I like to cover a ton of water. So for this, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So like obviously tips are welcome because I'm still learning, you know, we all are.
It's amazing. John actually comments, he says, nice. He goes, the most versatile for me that has given me the most diverse catches has been the Rapala JSR 5 jointed shad wrap. I have seen those. I have one jointed crank and it's an A-Bay. A-Bay Lure Lab. It is beautiful perch pattern. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where every year I try to take a bait and kind of like focus and digest on what that is. This year for me, it's bladed jigs. I've been throwing a lot of like ultralight bladed jigs. Like you mentioned, like the small cranks. I just bought a bunch of them from Bait Finesse Empire. Just like, little tiny square bills. And they run 6 to 8 inches, you know, and you're not going to, but they're square bills. So they still deflect. You hit a rock or a piece of wood and it's like, this is pretty slick. It's pretty badass. We got other folks coming in here. What's Dan say here? They work a lot. They can work like a kid. Yo-yo them like a lipless. Dude, I love it. It's one of my favorite baits to have is a lipless. As a pond fisherman, just pump them. I am a burn it and kill it guy when it comes to lipless. Burn it, kill it, rip it. Oh yeah, I love it. I fish a lipless a lot like I would fish a bladed jig. And then Todd says, he chimes in, he goes, for me, KVD square bill.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a home run, man.
I want to tag off what you just said, though.
Yeah.
Lunker Hunt has this sick bladed square bill that is unbelievable.
I think I saw that on Instagram.
I'm obsessed with it. Really? Because you're getting the reflection, like you said, but it's literally a chunky square bill. Like, it's big. Like, this thing dives, like, well. It runs just like it, but the way that it reflects, like, you can see this thing. Shit. Like, it's, like, wild. I don't know. I wish I knew it right off the top of my head what it was exactly called, but I think it is literally, like, a bladed crankbait is what they call it, or something like that.
I have, we actually in this month's Dark Horse Tackle Box, there's an A-Bay square bill that is just like drool worthy, like absolutely beautiful. Yep. And I can't wait to get my hands on it. But I've seen that Lunker Hunt bladed square bill before. And I actually, I don't know if I even realized that it was Lunker Hunt. It might have thought it was like, have you ever followed the account Raw Fishing?
No.
Oh, no. He's in Jersey and he fishes a lot of ultralight stuff, BFS, but also like a lot of like super finesse tackle and shows like all these crazy rigs. And he's always doing these things that are just really outside the box.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, the glitch blade. Yeah, but mine's green. It's the silver blade, but the head of it is green.
That's wild.
And it's killer. Like if you could just go buy it right now.
Yep.
I think I don't even want to say this, but like actually though, like my code is like Noelle Hunters 15 or something. Yep. Like just go get the 15% off. I don't care. Go buy it. Yes.
Oh, dude.
There's that one. I think there's a darker one too, or maybe your contrast is just right.
Oh, that's freaking
But yeah,
sweet.
like that is also in my bio. So like of my Instagram at Noelle Roth. So or Linktree. Like
that thing's pretty rad. I've never seen that.
Wild for the spring. Just go get it because I have caught more fish on that, almost more than my KVDs, honestly.
No shit. Really?
Which is like a really big deal for me because my entire tag box is
KVDs.
KVD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're solid plugs. I mean, you can't argue with that. They're great plugs. The thing
I have a whole YouTube about crankbaits, like whole video on everything that I collaborated with Monster Bass on, like years ago. When I took my mom, everything we used was freaking KVD. Yep. Everything from like regular, nice, pretty natural colors to bright, flaky, glittery shit. And it was sick. We had a great time and they work.
That's freaking awesome. When you mentioned colors. When you're selecting colors, do you have sort of like a theory when it comes to colors or something that you try to follow as far as what you're choosing?
Yeah.
What's that?
I'm pretty solid on it. I really like natural. So like I'm going to throw like reds and browns. So you got your craw, you got your shad colors, but then I do go out of the box. I'm a big believer in gold and black.
Okay.
I really like gold and black together. So like I have a Lunker Hunt crankbait. The top of it, like right where the fin would be, is black, and the rest of it is gold. But I have other ones that are like that too. And then this guy, bluegill colors, yes.
Yep.
I throw a lot of all my jerk baits are actually yellow perch style. Like I have the same thing, Strike King. I think it's called like Big Daddy or whatever the color is called. Yeah. That's like I have them in every single size. Because that has been my favorite to throw. And even Tim today, he's like, this is great. I'm like, well, you can switch it up. And he's like, no, I just love the way this feels. And I'm like, because actually you get like so much range and they're great. But the color, I like anything like you match the hatch,
Oh, yeah. Home run. That's for me, that's always the situation. I make exceptions when it comes to like the watercolor, like playing off of that. I've got colors that I choose for tannic water. I've got colors that I choose for like slightly stained water or heavily stained water. But at the same time, I always keep in the back of my mind, dummy, if they're eating this forage, they're eating that in that water. It doesn't really matter. And oftentimes, like with a crankbait, what about rattles and silent? Do you lean a specific way or do you like to get multiples of each so you have options?
I have both.
Yeah.
It's depending on condition too, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes that rattle is just too much, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
100%.
true.
I mean, I actually like to throw the rattles when it is raining just because I feel like they hear it more over the the little droplets on the surface. Like we're in windy conditions. Like I think they can hear it. And that's why, but otherwise, if it's a calm day, I'm not throwing anything that's going to rattle.
Yeah.
I think it's like you just said, it's too much. It's like a smack in the face. And they're like, oh, what the heck is that thing?
Yeah. It's too loud almost though. It's just freaking nuts. Noelle, this was awesome. I'm so glad we had you on as a guest host this week. I think that you could probably learn a little bit from Joe's misfortune that he's had recently, but I think it's for the best. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on the engagement. Congratulations on the new boat. I'm stoked for you guys. And I think there is a lifetime of adventure that you're about to embark on. And I'm stoked for you. I think this is going to be absolutely awesome.
Really appreciate it. This was awesome. Thanks for having me. It was great chatting with you guys. And,
glad to have you.
Getting to learn a little bit, but hopefully put some stuff out there too.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it's all about. It's all about just putting things out there in the world and see what happens. You guys have anything you want to throw in there before we wrap things up?
No. Like I said, I've got to work the Boston Marathon in the morning, so I'm going to be heading to bed right after this for a couple hours and then being miserable all day.
There you go. It's going to be great. Have a donkeys on me, all right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're going to wrap this sucker up. This has been an amazing show. Thank you to everybody who's been following us on Instagram and giving feedback about these new episodes. Really, really, really appreciate that. And the analytics have been great. You guys have been digging a lot of the new stuff we've been adding. As always, I want to mention, if you have a financial question for your financial experts, Bobby Roastbeef and who the fuck is Joe Brown, you can call us on the hotline. The number is listed in the podcast description. You can email us at jigsandbigs413@gmail.com or just DM us on Instagram or on Facebook, and we'll gladly give you our opinions. We'll leave your name out of it if you want, for sure, but we'll let you know what we think about your next financial move when it comes to fishing. Should you buy that boat? Should you invest in JDM? What about BFS? Is it all a scam? It's not, but we'll talk about that. Go ahead and get in touch with us.
It's probably good Noelle didn't ask us before she bought the boat.
It's true. So
I would say buy the boat. I asked him, I was like, well, if you had a tip to give everybody today, what would it be? He said, just buy the boat. Buy the damn boat.
Buy the damn boat. Buy the damn boat.
It's true. It's true. Just do it. Just do it. I know that's going to be something that's going to pop up a lot, and we're going to dive in and talk about the money for buying the boat, if it's worth it, ways to do it. We're going to do the same thing for kayaks too, because there's a lot of folks out there that have this conception of like, oh, I need to buy this fully rigged kayak right out of the gate, and they're like, you're going to do better off if you don't do it that way. Take it a step at a time and let it tell you. But that's for another show. As always, guys, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us a star rating on Spotify if you're listening there, or whatever the platform is that you're listening to Jigs and Bigs. We will have I should mention, you guys have been listening on YouTube. This is amazing. About 3 weeks ago, I dropped every podcast episode. The video is just the artwork of that show. Everyone is on there, and they're getting listens. Some are getting flagged for copyright, so yay. So maybe those, but yeah, our YouTube available videos increased by over 200 in one snap. It was ridiculous. So you guys are into it. If that's where you want to listen to us, awesome. Make sure to leave comments on those, and especially if there's like specific spots, you can timestamp your comments and let us know what you're referring to. That would be fantastic. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up, guys. We appreciate you so much. As always, go ahead and catch those fish. The scavenger hunt for May is going to be live this week. You can start registering now. As you're listening to this podcast, you can go ahead and get registered. We will see you guys in 7 days with more Jigs and Bigs goodness. Don't forget to tag us in your fishing pics too. We would love to show you a little social media love with likes, shares, saves, all that stuff, and comments. Like we always say,
tits and ass, smoke some grass.